so this is the pack one pick one, and I feel like there's no question what you do here. But there are a number of really good cards in this pack. I thought this was like a nice strong pack. The cards that really jump out, other than the obvious legend that I'm going to be taking, is the Tio. That card's pretty strong. I've found from I don't think I've played it, but on the other side of the table, the Azula is interesting to me, though it hasn't been as good as it I first thought it was, and it's kind of rated low on 17 lands, which makes sense to me. Um, it's not very good on defense. It's kind of hard to attack in with a 4/3 and get value through attacking multiple times. The Suki seems very strong if you're in like the green white allies or one of the banned allies decks, but not super strong outside that archetype. Um, Zhang Zhang's Deserters also seems like a good card in the Allies deck once you're in that, but not too much outside. The Compassionate Healer is kind of nice either in an Allies deck or with Water Bending. Swamp Snare Trap is a sort of replacement level removal spell. It's definitely not one I'm excited about, but then Firebending Lesson I feel like is one of uh, the best possible commons that really kind of draw you to a color. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a couple cards you didn't mention. I mean, one of them, I feel like in most formats, the Ostrich Horse would be also kind of exciting, but maybe green's pretty weak, so people, don't really want to move into green, pack one, pick one. But, I don't know, just shout out to that effect. I always love that effect. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if its data is going to be bad, but, like,
So,
normally its
I
kind of common's
actually just
great.
looked
Yeah,
at this one,
yeah.
and so it's very good in the black green deck, but the black green deck's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, like, this kind of card's interesting, because, like, you might see, like, it says, like, white green has the lowest data, but this is the kind of card that's like, well, I was gonna say, like, this is the kind of card that you look at and it's just kind of like good in a way, right? Like, it's just kind of like a 2-for-1, like a Rogue Refiner. But it's almost like the reason it's worse in white green is more that like white green decks tend to like want very particular things, whereas a deck like black green's just like give me cards, right? So it's like it's almost not even necessarily that it has synergy. And maybe it does have synergy. I don't know if there's graveyard stuff, but you see what I'm saying? It's almost like the like more you just want like 2-for-1s or whatever. Um, like it's not that I think
Yeah,
it's bad in white green. It's just more that like white green might need something specific, or like if somebody has this in their white green deck, maybe the deck's more of a pile or whatever. But anyway,
white
yeah,
green needs allies, and then
yeah,
also there's a +1/+1 counter theme that doesn't really materialize very well in this set. So I could see that putting the land being really the only thing you're gonna want to do. Um,
yeah. And also something I would say about this kind of card, because they have this kind of card in almost every format recently, that sometimes people might underappreciate is like, so this card's kind of like a 2-for-1, right? Because you draw a land. But let's say you play
mhm.
17 mana sources and you don't have any way to like loot away lands or mana sinks or whatever. Like, it's nice that you have a land, but if you just have, and some games are going to be light on lands, but like let's say you have enough lands, like you keep a 4 land or 5 land hand and you play this, the land doesn't do anything, right? So like this card also gets better when you have ways to use the land. Like if you have cards that loot, like Yu Yan Archers is really good with this card, like the 3/1 or mana sinks. So that's like something people can leave out, because also like sometimes people might feel like they have too many of this card. Like if you have like 3 or 4, but if you start combining it with cards to like get extra value out of the land, then it can be really strong, because then you mitigate the situation that you have too many lands, so the extra land's useless. But anyway, yeah, we
Yeah.
can go back to the pack. Just yeah, there were some formats where this was like the strongest common. Like if you played Duskmore and like Spine, I don't know if it was the strongest, but Spine Seeker Centipede was like really good. It was like the Delirium version of this card. But anyway, there's also Teo. I don't. Did you mention? I don't. Did you mention Teo?
Yeah, Teo was the first card I mentioned.
Oh, okay, yeah.
As just strong. I mean, it's nice. It's a nicely sized body in this format, like that blocks decently, and it can immediately get value if you have another flyer. Like,
Um, yeah. Sorry, I was just checking the audio to make sure it was working properly for a second. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I would say like, well, the one thing I would say about Azula, I don't know if you remember, I said it if like the last time when I was talking about 17 lands data, and I was saying like, I have a
yeah,
theory that like,
engines get underrated, and this is an engine card.
yeah, and I was like, this is the kind of, and it's the kind of difference between like playing on Arena and like single elims or a scrappy pod. Because again, Azula is basically like another what I would call a Baneslayer Angel, and I feel like these Baneslayer Angels tend to get underrated, or like their data can not always be that impressive on 17 lanes. But like if you read this card and you think about it, it also has the other context that it's black, and maybe I haven't played the format a ton, but maybe people don't want to like black's maybe not the strongest color, so people might lean to like a blue card of a similar level or whatever. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like this is the kind of card that you can read it, and like before you even have anything deeper, you're like, well, if I untap with this card, I'm probably in a pretty good spot. I mean, that's why I'm saying it's like a Baneslayer. Like that's what I mean by Baneslayer Angel, kind of. It's like a vanilla creature that's big. If you untap with it, it's a good spot. And when you play on Arena and like all the decks are super optimized and everyone has cheap removal, cheap everything, everything's good, you get more punished for playing a Baneslayer. But when you're playing a scrappy pod and people are struggling for playables to get a deck together, people don't have as much removal, then these Baneslayer Angels can really like shine a lot more. So like sometimes I'll keep that in mind. Like this is the kind of card that like you're playing at the PT. Like I feel like having an Azula will feel a higher impact. You know what I mean? Like if you're drafting at a PT with against good players, than if you're drafting on Arena and everybody's deck's nutty. So that's something I do keep in mind a little bit. Um,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
yeah,
I play this card in all my black decks. I like this card when I get it. But the issue with black is all of the power is concentrated at the rares. It has some of the big bombs, so I'm not really looking to get into black on the strength of a card like this. I really kind of want to have a better reason to be black. One of the black rares or mythics.
yeah, I would say that's like one thing when like looking into the colors is like sometimes I think it's not even because sometimes people will be like when you think about entering a color, you're like, oh, how good does the card have to be for me to enter a color, right? Because like let's say a color is weaker in the format, and you see a solid card in the color, but you're like, I don't know if I should enter a card in the color. Like one way to think about that also is like the shallowness of the color is a way to think about it, because sometimes like I feel like those narratives sometimes can get like a bit wonky, at least in the at large community. Like a lot of times people will say, oh, so and so color is really bad, but like there's different ways to think of it. Like I think the way I like to think about it is like the shallowness of the color. So like sometimes it's like, oh, maybe a reason to not take a black uncommon early, as you were saying, like maybe kind of what you're saying is like, oh, you think the commons are shallow. You know what I mean? Like you take a black uncommon early, but then the black commons are going to be kind of shallow, so it's hard to get value. But
I,
I would, yeah,
I think the Hug Monkey highlights that.
yeah. But I would say, uh, like if you go like by the all time, commons, like badness. I'm just pulling up 17 lanes to get a rough estimate of the things. But I think like the black commons are like it's not like super shallow, because I mean they have some. I mean I guess it's relatively shallow, but there's a few cards that you might like, and I guess they can be synergy based. So like the Callous Inspector, the Black Inspector. I mean I don't know how it performs in all the black archetypes, but that can be maybe
I,
strong. Yeah,
so that's a card that I think is very synergy driven. That's really nice in the black white deck that wants to be sacrificing things, but then it's not so impressive in like a blue black deck. It's not that generically good. It's very good if you can maximize the synergies, use all parts of the buffalo.
interesting. Because I was thinking there are like a couple cards that has synergy within the blue black deck. Like I could almost see like in my mind like maybe the one of the weaker decks for it would be like black green, like black. And I'm pulling it up, and yeah, like when I'm just looking quickly. I guess you said I'll try not to mention 17 lands too much, but like in my mind like Callous Inspector would be like worse than black green, because you imagine black green deck is like most about just getting on the board tempo. Green has big creatures, like whatever. Like I don't know if it's intuitive or whatever. Like but like blue black, like sometimes blue black I guess has trouble with creature quality, because you can just imagine blue and black creature kind of small, so it can have trouble blocking, trouble getting on the board. So like I could see Callous Inspector could be okay in blue black only, and like blue black might have a lot of card draw and removal. So like blue black kind of is interested in like sometimes blocking in some formats. You know what I mean? Because you have all this removal, you have all this card draw.
Yeah.
So I could see like Inspector being okay if there's enough X ones to block. And like black does, like blue black sometimes does have a little sacrifice theme. Like you have the water bend, so Callous Inspector is okay with the water bend theme. Um,
So
yeah,
I think yeah, it's okay with Waterbend, but I think this is a format that actually doesn't have that many X1s. Like I mean maybe Ostrich Horse is just really underrated, but I don't see many things that are like 2-1s, 3-1s. The only one is the Yuyan Archers. There's like a 2-1 haste for 3 that makes another 1-1, but there's just not that much.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's the like 3 mana 3/1 ruffians, but like the black
Oh
green
yeah, that's a
hybrid
card
card.
everyone tried to put in their decks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are also cards like the more scrappier the pods are, the more likely people are going to be scrapping with like those cards. So then it's like
Yeah,
it can get
that
those.
card showed up in Worlds.
But also like Callous Inspector can be like if you go like turn one Callous Inspector, tune two Fortune Teller, then you can start like double blocking. Sometimes stuff like that. I mean, I'm not saying it's great, but in my mind, like I haven't played the format a ton, but in my mind, Callous Inspector can fit in the blue black deck just because I was saying like you're often kind of interested in blocking. Maybe it can help double block because you have cards like Fortune Teller.
Sure.
Maybe you have Sacrifice because I mean, uh, but anyway, but like
Yeah.
like I see what you mean. Like obviously, like in black, like if you're playing Golgari, like I would say, like yeah, you're not really looking for Callous Inspector. Meanwhile, if you're playing white black, it could be pretty exciting. But then like there's another like Deadly Precision is also kind of interesting because that's obviously like a a sacrificey
That's
card.
a nice card if you have that with Callous Inspector for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
but so the Callous Inspector is just the sort of card that you sent me to a Max Mick
yeah,
YouTube channel at one point, and he had a video that I really liked called "Drafting with Your Deck in Mind." So the Callous Inspector is the sort of card that you have to think about the synergies with your cards. It's not just going to be good by itself. It requires cards that work well with it, like sacrifice stuff, water bending, creatures that can double block, etc.
yeah.
So, are you good to move on from this pack? I kind
Uh,
of I
yeah.
because this isn't the set that I'm going to be drafting at the PT. I
Okay.
kind of don't want to go like super deep on individual card choice, individual cards, especially ones that like aren't even in the pack.
Yeah, we can move on in a second. I guess the main point I was getting at was the Callous Inspector. Is I was going to be like, I think black is a little bit has is not that shallow at common. Like I think a lot of the black commons are actually fine. I heard, you know, and I was watching the Worlds
Yeah,
coverage and I
great
heard
lesson.
Derek Davis was saying that he liked to draft black in the format when they were interviewing him. But I was just gonna like name a bunch of cards like Sold Out, Canyon Crawler, Messenger Hawk, uh, the 1/1 that makes
Yeah.
them discard a card. I was just gonna say like I don't think black is that shallow. Obviously, Hog Monkey is pretty bad, maybe one of the worst ones. But yeah, we can move on from the pack. I mean, it's a pretty clear Legend of Kurok. Obviously, it's one of the best rares in the set, and if it wasn't in the pack, you'd probably take one of the uncommons like Teo or something. Okay, so pick two.
I think I would take Teo.
Yes.
Okay, so this next pack comes up, and um, it's also got some decent stuff. So you've got an Allies at Last, which is, I think, a really strong uncommon here, but not at all useful with Legend of Kurik. You've got the Accumulate Wisdom, which I think is probably. This is a little bit harder to make work, but it will work in a Legend of Kurik deck. Um, I, I kind of like the Redirect Lightning if I'm already in red, but it's not a draw to red for me. Same with Zhang Zhang the Deserter. I think this card's pretty good, but I don't think I would take this over like Allies at Last, for example, if this was a pack one, pick one. Um, and then I like, Yip Yip in the appropriate deck. I like Otter Penguin in its appropriate deck, but um, I think the Accumulate Wisdom is like a nice direction to take this draft. So what do you think on this pack?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like as you were saying, Accumulate Wisdom is kind of an interesting card because it's very powerful in the right deck. Not all, but it doesn't always fit in. But like, it is kind of like a funny micro synergy almost, where like the more like having Legend of Kurik already makes the Accumulate Wisdom kind of better, just in the sense that you have like if you have like really high impact stuff to dig towards, it makes the cantrips better, right? Like so, I guess bombs are good with cantrips. Um,
Yep.
I would say it was the two red cards. I mean, they're kind of weird cards, and that's where I'd be like, it's not obvious that either of them are good. I mean, both like when I looked at them both, I remember like last week for Steel, they both have like some negative data aspects on 17 lands. Like I'm not gonna look at it too much, but that's like just something interesting to think about. Like it's like both like the Deserter and the Redirect Lightning are kind of like it's not obvious how good they are. They're kind of nebulous. Allies at Last, yeah, definitely really strong, but it's in green, so you have to keep that in mind. And yeah, it seems like kind of a shallow pack. Otherwise, like like the red cards are kind of to me they seem kind of shaky. And yeah, so it seems like it's like you always ask what are you giving up to take the wisdom, right? Because it's not like there's just it doesn't seem like there's that much juice in this pack, right? Like the Allies at Last, yeah, it's kind of strong, but I don't know if you want to move into green second because I do feel like green shallow. So it sounds like you kind of agree. I mean, it sounds like the main thing is like maybe I'm a little bit more skeptical on how good these red cards are, but obviously I'm not 100% sure. And
I think
yeah,
Redirect Lightning is really nice if you have cards like Azula from the last pack. So if you have like these powerful Baneslayer Angel type things that you want to protect. So I think this card's really nice if you've got like some high impact 4 or 5 drop. You can just kind of play it 1 mana off curve and then protect it.
Yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, taking the wisdom seems fine because it's like, you know, you don't have a thing to protect anyway. But yeah, so this seems reasonable. Um, yeah, like the so looks like you're thinking a bit, just looking at the commons, checking if
Yeah,
there's
I think I'm.
synergy. Yeah, you're like the Otter Penguin's good as a legend, maybe. Yeah.
I don't think I'm thinking on
Yeah,
what to actually take
yeah.
here.
Okay.
I was just waiting for the pack to queue up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this next pack is now super interesting. Then this was a difficult pick for me, but I took the accumulate again because I figure once I have one lesson, the second one's better because that means that I can use one that I draw early and it powers up the next one that I eventually find. But there are a couple of cards I'm pretty sad to pass. I'm sad passing a Heartless Act. I feel like blue black is kind of a nice way to go with this deck. Black doesn't have that many lessons, but I am a big fan of the black creatures in like, yeah, I guess like the one we talked about before, the Callous Inspector. I'm a big fan of um, uh, just like removal spells alongside my big card advantage bomb. So that was a card that I thought was hard to pass. I think the Deadly Precision's also like kind of a nice card, but the Fortune Teller really nice for this deck. But I think this is a clear second accumulate wisdom.
Yeah, I mean the main, like the big picture question here is like you have two blue cards. You look at a pack, and maybe if it was pack one, pick one. You know, maybe you'd say Heartless Act's the best card, or whatever. I mean, maybe not, but the question's kind of like, oh, should I take a card that's in my color, and also in within your color, you might say like pack one, pick one. I mean, maybe you prefer Fortune Teller to Wisdom because it doesn't take lesson synergies or whatever. So that's kind of like the three kind of like themes you're looking at here. You're like, okay, should I stay in my color? If I stay in my color, how should I rank Wisdom versus Fortune Teller? And you know, I feel like um, it's really nice. I don't know if you've heard before people say like it's really nice in pack one if you're just kind of one color, or if you
Yeah,
can be base one color. Because pack two you're gonna have a better idea what's open when somebody passes you a good bomb. So you don't want to take it too far, but again, it's like what are you giving up? So like maybe Heartless Act. Maybe you believe I don't even know if it's a better card, but maybe you believe it's a bit better card. But it's like if Wisdom and Fortune Teller are only a little bit worse, you know maybe you keep taking those blue cards just to stay in blue. Obviously, there's kind of like in the back of one's brain, they might have a very small idea that like, oh, am I actually being open by taking blue, or is blue going to get cut later and I like lost my chance to be open in black? But that's probably too like, don't even think about it or what. Yeah,
yeah, I don't think I can think like that. Like
yeah,
one of the things that used to be when I started playing Magic, 15 years, 18 years, whatever ago, and I was drafting, people would always tell me, think about what's going to wheel. And I feel like that's just not worth doing. I feel like I just need to be taking the best card for my deck in the pack and figuring out what's open, sure, but I mean, predicting what people are going to pass on the wheel just seems too
yeah.
hard.
Not
And
wheel
not
or
you.
not wheel, but I mean more like let's say if you have like your philosophy of draft is like I want to draft like the best deck in my seat, and drafting the best deck in my seat is like drafting what's open.
Mhm.
So like on one angle, if you take three blue cards in a row, you're like, oh, like I'm taking the blue cards. It's what's open. It's what I'm getting past. But on another level, you're also like, like how do I say like there's two levels of flexibility what I mean. So I mean like what I mean is like if you take three blue cards in a row, you're putting yourself well positioned in blue, but like if you take a black card for example, then you might say, "Oh, I'm giving myself the flexibility so that like if black is open, I can do it." And like this isn't the best way of describing it. So it's probably not worth going into too much. Like maybe if I get a better example, I can think of it. But it's kind of like I guess like it's just realistically, it's like what are you giving up? It's like this is a pretty good blue card. You have two blue cards, so just take the blue card. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think my personal draft philosophy, because I'm not very good at drafting a deck when it's not like super clear what the end result of the deck is going to look like. Like I kind of struggle in the drafts where I try to stay open and just take the best card every pick. I tend to do a lot better when I have a focus deck. So I think for my philosophy, I kind of want to find that one color and let my sort of rares and first couple of picks dictate it. And then if it really dries up by the end of pack one, then I'll think about reconsidering. And like in the middle of the pack, if there's no strong blue card, I'm not going to keep taking blue cards. But as long as I keep getting strong blue cards, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to properly evaluate. Oh, Heartless Act is actually in a vacuum better than Accumulate. I think I just got to take the card for my deck.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one thing I would say about like drafting towards a deck, and I think I might have said it last time, is that like kind of like in the first, like the first few picks, you might have less context of like the direction your deck is going, or the, it's it's like the kind of the spectrum is like as the more the draft progresses, the more you know like what your deck's looking for. But obviously, it's good like if you get a powerful lessons card early, and then you can draft towards lessons early. But if you see what I mean, like the way you could imagine it is like, let's say you take a few blue cards, but then you start seeing like let's say you start to take powerful blue lessons cards early, but then like late pack one and early pack two, there's like other like the non-lessons blue cards are going. So I mean I think it's like good to like draft the deck, but like just kind of see what I'm just saying like that's something to keep in mind too, is that like the earlier in the draft, the less information you have of what you might want to build towards, if that makes sense. Whereas like it's kind of like as you move slowly through the draft, you have more idea of like, okay, this is what I'm building towards. Like I don't know if I explained that well.
Definitely. I think your idea
Yeah.
is don't tunnel vision on a particular deck too early. Keep in mind that you got to make sure that
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a proper deck.
Yeah, I would say like or just to go like really quickly, like sometimes I almost think of it like you could almost think like it's like sealed. Like you could almost think draft is like sealed except for you pick the cards, but it's like you could almost think like the first few picks you have in draft are kind of like your first few rares you look at in sealed, and then the rest of it is like as you open the other packs, if you see what I mean. So it's like I don't know if that that analogy makes sense, but it's kind of saying like the first few picks, like you see the most powerful cards, but then you only reveal what you can make out of those most powerful cards as the draft goes on. But anyway, we can keep going. Like for example, like Messenger Hawks and stuff. Like if you get a bunch of late Messenger Hawks, then you might be more interested in Deadly Precision. But anyway, so okay, so this is the pack, and yeah, it looks like you selected Airbending Lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like, well, one, it's a lesson, so it's on theme. There's also Azula Always Lies and Platypus Bear. Platypus Bear, to me, is the sort of card that's good in the lessons deck, but is, replaceable. Airbending Lesson is not. I think that that's kind of a strong lesson. I think White Blue is probably, I've heard it's a good deck. I hadn't had that much experience drafting successful White Blue decks. Um, I have had success drafting black blue decks, but I think the airbending lesson is just like so much better than Azula Always Lies.
Yeah, it
So
seems.
that
Yeah, yeah, it seems pretty like straightforward. Like it's probably the best card. It's almost the best card in the pack, arguably, and it's super on theme with what you're doing. So makes sense. Yeah, and then
okay.
okay, you
Oh
took the
shoot.
land. Oh, you pat. Yeah,
So here's a problem.
yeah,
Not a problem. Sorry.
yeah. I guess
I
it
guess
went too many
I'm
packs, but
not
it
very.
looked like abandoned attachments. I mean, yeah. I guess it was like a three. Okay, yeah, you can go back 10 seconds. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this pack here, now this gets a little interesting for me. I have the option to take another lesson, or I have the option to commit a little more into white. And I do feel like Glider Kids is a very nice card for this type of deck. 2/3 flying is just a nice body in this format on both offense and defense. So I really like this card. I'm not a big fan of the Compassionate Healer. It's okay. It's good if you have a bunch of waterbending synergies, which so far I don't. And then abandoned attachments is just on theme.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm like a little bit more skeptical of the glider kids just because like on the power level like I guess I would say like the sometimes like a matrix I use to evaluate cards is I'll just be like, is this card above average, average, or below average? And like intuitively to me, glider kids kind of drift somewhere between average and below average. And I guess like the reason why I would say that is I just feel like let me see how to put it. Just like sometimes, like, I feel like sometimes if you take like a pessimistic approach to draft, or like if you assume your opponent's decks are going to be good and synergistic, or if you're like the games are really about synergy and doing powerful things, I just don't know like how much juice Glider Kids is giving me to squeeze, and like maybe it's an ally, so that's what it does. But you know what I mean? I just like right now you have all this lesson theme going on, so I don't know if it fits with it that well. It just doesn't seem like that powerful to me. I mean, that's also where you can like double check the data to get an idea, but and like maybe I'm wrong or whatever. But it just seems like a very common kind of a card to me. Like it's very hard for it to do more. It's hard for it to do that much. And like if your opponent, like in my mind, if my opponent has a really good draw, this card can be really weak. And like if my opponent doesn't have that good of a draw, it's also like. But anyway, that's I don't want to go too much into this card or whatever. Too deep into it. Yeah.
let me see if I can parse some of that. So I think you said this card's sort of like average, and I think the data shows that it's slightly above average. Whatever, it's like 56, 57. I would call 55 average just for the purposes of my understanding. But so the abandoned attachments, I think, gives you the opportunity to make the most broken deck possible, and I'm already set up to potentially have a really busted deck so far. So I think taking the abandoned attachment sounds like it's higher upside, it's synergy with what I have, and it can dig me towards my busted rare.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, one thing I would say about the Glider Kids is that it has like a 56, but I think White's average win rate is close to 57, so it might be like slightly negative in White,
Interesting.
maybe. But you can see in like the improvement, the I like the one all the way on the right, improvement in hand. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to take a bandit. Like you have three lessons, you have a bunch of blue cards. Like it just fits so well. You know, like like the thing about abandoned attachments is like it's not even that bad if you don't like obviously if you don't end up in lessons it's not great, but it's like what are you giving up? Like there's a meteor sword, there's a compassionate healer, yeah, so makes sense to take abandoned
But
next
how
pick.
could I end up not in lessons? I would have to lose blue, right? Because I'm already, even if I don't get any more lessons than these
Yeah,
three, I'm already probably gonna play these cards.
yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
I mean they
maybe
won't be as
two
good,
maybe.
right? Because like if you only have those three you can never get you can never get.
Okay, so I take it back.
Yeah, but no, it makes
All right,
sense. It's hard to, yeah, yeah.
next pack, I have the choice between a blue-red tapped duel and the Agna Quell. And so I don't think I'm interested in like a mediocre black removal spell. I'm not interested in a mediocre, this is a subpar white common. This is a mediocre, medium to bad white common. But I am interested in just upgrading my mana base. This feels to me like all other than the red one, all of these are really strong picks because they have no opportunity cost. They just replace a basic land.
Yeah, I mean, taking the blue land makes a lot of sense. I mean, the one thing I would add though is, and like why I might be like a little bit higher on the kind of cards like Swamp Snare Trap, is that the thing about like a card like Swamp Snare Trap to me is like when I'm thinking through like in my mind my opponent's trying to assemble strong synergies and play strong rares. I just like that Swamp Snare Trap. It's a common, but it can interact with a lot of the strong rares in the format, and it can interact with a lot of synergies. Like there's a lot of cards, like June Bounty Hunter, or whatever. There's like the way draft is these days. It's almost more like Cube, kind of, if that makes sense. And it's just like I like that it can disrupt strong synergies. Be like a lot of games, you know what I mean. Your opponent plays a bomb, and you're like, oh, I guess I can't win because they have that bomb. I don't have removal, so I'm almost a little bit higher on cards like Swamp Snare Trap. But like if that makes sense compared to a card like Glider Kids, because you see the difference. Like Swamp Snare Trap's like, oh, my opponent plays a broken bomb, I can stop it, and Glider Kids is like, oh, I'm just gonna lose their Dark Confidant. Obviously, you might also I mean, you can like probably maybe in the back of your mind as you're saying this, you're like, well, it's better to be proactive than reactive, and Swamp Snare Trap's reactive. But that's why I'm like I'm like kind of happy a little bit to take it in a way. But yeah, I mean, obviously I would like taking the blue rare land. Like I'm not saying you should take this trap there. I'm just saying to me that's why I'm a little bit higher than it sounded like you were on that kind of card maybe.
Yeah, my issue with trap has mostly been that it doesn't kill what I want to kill a lot of times when I have it, and it's been kind of inefficient. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just haven't been thrilled with the card. All right, did something happen here?
Yeah. I mean, I guess these
Okay,
picks are tough. Okay. I mean, tough to time.
so
What's the
this is
timeline?
the
Yeah.
next pick. This is kind of
Okay, this is
funny
interesting.
because
Yeah.
yeah, so I see this Yuyan Archers, which that feels to me like a stronger card than Fire Nation attacks, especially for my deck. If I can loot away a lesson, that's kind of nice to turn on the accumulate. Waterbending lesson itself is a lesson, but I don't actually feel like I can. I already have all these like cheap instants, so I kind of don't feel like my deck's going to be like a tap out for waterbending lesson type of deck. I kind of want to pair the instants with more stuff to sort of survive, either maybe some quenches or removal spells. So here I do take the Swamp Snare Trap.
Well, I guess that's kind of interesting for like yeah, because like the waterbending lesson. I mean, intuitive to me, like it seems like kind of a strong card, and I guess it's kind of weird because like there's kind of two things going on. Like number one, I don't know if you were thinking like, oh, I already have a lot of slow card advantage. I'm kind of looking more for ways to affect the board because like I mean, I don't know, like, if you also, like, agree with me, like, you're like, oh, waterbending lesson's, like, a pretty strong common, but you look at your picks, and they're, like, literally all cantrips, but it's also kind of funny, because the kind of waterbending lesson almost has synergy with your cantrips, because it's a lesson, so it's, like, a little bit weird.
Right.
But I do feel like waterbending lesson can be good in a reactive deck, because it's, like, it does kind of pair well with Quench and, like, those removal spells, because it's kind of, like, a payoff for one in your opponent. But, yeah, I mean, I do feel like this is a pretty close pick, because I feel like waterbending lesson's, like, kind of strong, but it might be, like, more contextually, like, oh, I have so many cantrips, I don't know if I want another cantrip, but also it's like early in the draft, so it's like, am I early enough to be like, I'm not going to want more card draw or whatever, so it's like kind of like a weird mix of things, I guess, if you see what I'm saying. It's like, well, like it's like, is it early enough to know that, to like be overwhelmed on these kind of things, and like how much do I like trap whatever, that's kind of my brief thoughts, and yeah, I mean, I would kind of probably try and move to the blue-black cards more than the archers, because I feel like archers, again, like it's kind of like, you know, it's hard to squeeze that much juice out of it. Like, I know its data's fine or whatever, but I kind of like cards like Trap or Lesson, where, as you were saying, you can do something broken with it, you can do a lot with it. Yeah, I don't know if that was kind of your thought on Lesson. It's like, maybe you're scared you have too much card draw.
So yeah, the lesson, I felt like I already had too much card draw, and also I kind of like this in a more aggressive deck that's refueling, and or in a deck that has a bunch of ways to impact the board reactively, and I just don't have those elements yet, so I was kind of afraid of my deck being just too much air. I already have Agna Quell, Abandon Attachments, Accumulate Wisdom, and even Legend of Kurik is a 4-mana
Cantrip, yeah.
sorcery. So, I do think the Archers is maybe a little bit stronger than you're giving it credit for, because it does have lesson synergy. It can discard my lessons just to turbocharge the Accumulate.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, not to go too long in the pack, but I just feel like, I feel like cards like Waterbending Lesson can be good in control decks. It's more that you just, like, might have so many cantrips, and the question's, like, do you have too many cantrips? Because, like, in a control deck, you're, like, one for one in your opponent, and then, like, it's nice to have a way to, like, get something out of that, if that makes sense. And, like, you don't have as much synergy with your threats, because, you know what I mean?
I
anyway.
think if I could do it again, I would take the Waterbending Lesson.
Yeah, so we can keep going. But, like, again, not to repeat myself too much, but, like, that's the big question here, kind of, is like, do you think, like, this will happen in drafts sometimes, like, you might be like, Waterbending's lesson's, like, a better card, maybe, or, like, better with, like, the fact that I'm all blue, but the downside is maybe it doesn't fit as well in my deck, so you're kind of making the pick of, like, what fits better in my deck, but also it's early in the draft, so it's hard to know, because, like, imagine if you just, like, one thing about Waterbending Lesson is almost like, how likely are you to get more card draw, because if you never get the chance to pick card draw again, then it could be high value, but if, like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, you're almost kind of speculating, like, do you know what I mean? Because, like, if you can, like, it's like, it would be good if it's the last card draw you take, or, yeah, sorry.
Right, it's too early to say I have too much card draw.
Or, like, it's hard to answer the question. Yeah, I guess, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, it's hard to answer the question. Like, it's not exactly clear, because, like, if you see more card draw, like, if you see another Waterbending Lesson, then you have too much. But, yeah, I guess I'm kind of saying to, like, it's a mix of, it's like, almost too early to know you have too much card draw, but it's not exactly clear. Anyway, I guess, yeah, this pack, it's kind of interesting, because these are the kind of packs that's, like, a lot of weak cards, but you have to get max value. So, like, yeah, here, yeah, what were you thinking?
Okay, so there's 3 cards that look reasonable to me. I think the Tundra Tank is not one of them. That just is not. That's for a much more aggressive deck. That's not going to be good in, like, a more controlling deck. I think the Iguana Parrot is kind of reasonable if I'm playing all these instants, where I can just, cast spells to trigger it if I want to deal the extra damage. I can use it on defense as well. So it's a nice mix of abilities. I think Sunblast Peak could be interesting if I decide to go Jeskai route. And then Yip Yip, it being a lesson, that's actually... I think this card is pretty good in this format. I mean, it's not necessarily good in
Control?
my deck as it stands, but it could be good if my deck... So what I'm thinking here is, what if my deck is actually a white-blue, more aggressive deck, and I use the Accumulate Wisdom, Abandon Attachments, and Legend to refuel? So I feel like the 2 picks I'm interested in are the Yip Yip and the Iguana Parrot.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe it's too crazy or I play too much shield. Like in my like, I'm not saying that maybe it's not even a consideration the Canyon Crawler, but I feel like that's the kind of card that can fit kind of well in like a blue black, slower
I
deck.
agree.
So like I could see maybe considering it, but well the thing of Parrot's kind of interesting because Parrot's kind of like obviously like it can be stronger, but I guess Parrot can have more variation in your deck because like if your deck just is like not trying to win with the damage and whatever, like you know what I mean, like Parrot at its worst, might not complement your game plan as much. Yeah, Yip Yip's interesting for sure because like you're like, well, I don't have like you don't have any creatures right now, but you have 2 accumulated wisdom. And it's like Yip Yip's not the best in a control deck, but it is good. Like just lessons are really strong with accumulated wisdom. Makes sense. Yeah, Tundra Attack, super rough in your deck. The land's kind of interesting, but also like you have so much cantrips that you might be like, I might be kind of scared of having playables. I mean, I could see considering Crawler, but I don't know if it's like too bad in draft or whatever. That's like kind of being sealed brain. But taking Yip Yip, like it seems reasonable because you're like, I have 2 wisdoms. It's kind of a weird pick, but it's like you have 2 wisdoms, so it's like maybe I can try and play towards my lesson stuff, even though I don't have creatures yet. Yeah.
I also have this airbending lesson, and if I pass a super late Yip Yip, someone to my left is gonna be like, "Oh, white is super open. This card never goes this late," and jump into white. So once I pass the Yip Yip, I kind of lose my airbending lesson too. I feel.
I mean, I would say, I mean, there are some other like. It depends like on how people evaluate Yip Yip. You know, if people are high on Yip Yip and they're like, "Oh, late Yip Yip, time to go in white." But there are other like, but I don't know if you can be like if you have to see like how certain are you because there's other things like maybe they're just not in the color anyway. Maybe they like other cards. Like there's other decent cards in the pack, right? There was like the 3/1
The
Archer.
Archer.
You know what I mean? It was kind of like a deeper pack. There's Canyon Crawler if they're black. I feel like Canyon Crawler. I think it's the best land cycler out of them. Not that that's saying that much, but you know. Anyway, so that's something to like. I would say the thing about the like late. It's hard to know because it could also be like when you see a really good late card, but you're like I'm just like so far from playing it, and also it's like if they're white anyway,
Yeah.
you could potentially have 2 white drafters in a like you know what I mean. If you're white and the person next to you is white, obviously it's not great. But if the person you know what I mean next to them is white
I have a
anyway,
question.
yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're drafting a blue-white deck, and you finish pack 2, and you're playing kind of a blue-white, just like aggressive deck. The deck's not very strong. It's a lot of like replacement level cards. You have a lot of playables, but nothing really exciting. And then pack 3, you open up Coma, which is the 7 mana blue green green like 7/7 that makes a 3/3 every upkeep.
Yeah.
Would you take that Coma in pack 3 and go, okay, well, my deck kind of sucks, so I'm going to try see if I can go into blue green instead?
I mean, I would say
Isn't that
generally I don't feel like I do tend to do humongous switches like that in pack 3, but I would say it can depend on the balance of your colors, right? Like if you like have 12 blue cards and like 6 white cards, like you said blue white like an aggressive deck, right?
Yeah.
I would say like
I probably had 12 and 10.
yeah, like it very I would say it's very contextual based on like how good the good card like how like it depends what you mean by bad. Like if you have like 3 pretty like it depends how bad the white cards are because it's basically like what white cards are giving up. Like if you have like 3 pretty good white cards, then you probably shouldn't give up 3 pretty good white cards for this blue green card. But if you're like I have 10 white cards but they all suck, then maybe you're not giving it up as much. So right, so I would say like
It was a bunch of glider kids and yip yips
yeah. So I would say
and
like yeah. Sorry,
and
keep going.
like John John's deserters. It was that level of stuff.
Yeah, so like nothing that exciting. Like then there's also that's where like it would be like how concerned are you about playables? How well does your curve work, right? Like those cards you're mentioning aren't that good, but maybe if you're missing them on the curve, then they have a bit more value, right? Because then you have to look for the 2 or 3 drops. I mean, it's kind of like a mix of like what chance do you think will be light on playables? Like will you have enough playables if you take the green card? Um,
Yeah.
I would say like it's probably unlikely because like if I am blue white, then I would hope to have like some good uncommons or rares, so it's hard to move in. But it could definitely happen if like you're kind of more like mono blue and like you're not giving up that much. That I don't know if that answers the question that much.
Yeah,
Or,
it kind of does. But I think the way I'm thinking about it is my deck was close to a train wreck at that point.
yeah,
So maybe it's worth just sort of taking the Hail Mary and saying, okay, I might end up being forced to play like 3 colors here, but if I can grab a barrels of blasting jelly and I can grab, a couple of other pieces of fixing, I might be okay. But,
yeah, that could make sense. I mean, Yeah, I would just say that I feel like if you have a good like the cards these days are so strong that if you, I mean, you said it was like a train wreck, but like I feel like, so I guess that makes it a tough part of like should I spike variance here? But sometimes like I guess you want to like make sure that your deck really is a train wreck because if you have a solid curve and like a reasonable cohesive theme, so it depends on how much of a train wreck you think your deck is.
The
But
deck was literally just stack of commons that make up a curve.
yeah, because like that can
Like there was no removal, and there was like two Yip Yips, and there
yeah
were a bunch of glider kids, and it was just like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah. But anyway, I guess yeah we can look at this pick. So I don't know. I guess it's between like yeah. Did you? I mean, what were you thinking here? Was it like a clear pick to you? Did
So
you think it was close?
I Yeah, no, I actually don't think this one's close. I think I've got this airbending lesson. I've got this Yip Yip that puts me in a direction, and the direction is white aggro-ish. And if I end up sort of white blue more mid range, the John Gong's Deserters is even a reasonable size, just like a 2 mana 2/3 to block. So I was very happy slamming the John Gong's Deserters here as my first creature.
Yeah, I could. I mean, obviously I'm not an expert in the format, but I could like to me I could see like a consideration of the trap just because like basically what I was saying about the glider kids earlier. I just like I value cards that interact with uncommons and rares. I mean I guess that's the way to put it. Obviously maybe you're like you
Sure.
don't like trap as a removal, you had bad experience, so you're like this is just not a removal I want to play. But I could be like I could see like yeah we have an airbending lesson and a Yip Yip, but like we already have one trap. Like it kind of just depends how much you value the trap anyway. But I could be like I feel like we're pretty close between black and white because like the Yip Yip was kind of like it's an interesting it's like an advanced pick because like it's kind of like sometimes when you're drafting, and I think a lot of the value of getting drafting is like learning how to navigate those packs, those picks where like it's unclear how good it is. If that makes sense, like the Yip Yip here, it's like well I don't have any creatures, so like it's not clear how good the Yip Yip is to me. I guess is what I'm saying. Like maybe it'll be quite good because you end up with lessons, but also maybe you kind of end up in a blue white control deck and it won't like you don't have any creatures. But anyway, I guess like the main takeaway I would just be thinking is like I like cards like Trap because they interact with uncommons and rares, and like I kind of might value that over commons. But obviously, and like I'm not sure how much I value the Yip Yip. That's kind of how I'm breaking down the statement. But like I wouldn't be surprised if like maybe in reality it's just obviously Zhang Zhang's, and I think it's pretty reasonable to take the Zhang Zhang's Deserters or whatever. So that's just kind of what I would
Right.
add to
But
it. Yeah,
yeah, the trap is the only other, like
consideration.
caveat.
Yeah, the other cards are yeah heinous and whatever. And also I would
Um,
say one thing about I guess about signals and whatever is that and again this all comes down to like for example if you said you just don't like trap and you don't think it's that good then it changes everything but I might be thinking oh that's kind of a late swamp snare trap maybe that's kind of a signal that people aren't in black as much not a signal but like I feel like it's a
right.
stronger card flowing later like I'd rather like maybe pack one pick one a trap than a Jong Jong's and and whatever but anyway we can keep going and yeah here yeah it looks
Okay,
like
here
it's
I'll
just
take a sour pick. I take the green card, even though green has not felt open, just with the idea that, oh, I might be like Bant allies with the lessons package. I should have just taken a Canyon Crawler here and just said, okay, well, I've been fed a lot of black. I don't know if it's still going to be open, but, might as well hedge towards it because I think there's like almost no chance I'm playing green at this point.
yeah and the black, but also I don't know if you gave any consideration to Boomy Bash, and obviously you have to be careful like staying open too much. But I could like it's obviously like a fine dance, it's how like to stay open, but like Boomy Bash is also kind of like a card that could be okay, and it's like maybe like and that's the thing about like being monocolor in pack one, because if you view your identity really, it's like okay, I'm like base blue and I'm kind of flirting with these other colors. But maybe imagine pack two, if somebody passes you pick two like the insane red saga, and then you kind of move in blue red. Like I would be like like what am I really giving up? Because like this Foggy Swamp Vinebender, yeah, as you were saying, you said it was a sour pick. It's just like even like it doesn't seem like a card that you probably even want in Bant. So maybe you can speculate with Boomy Bash or Canyon Crawler. You know what I mean? Or not even
I think
speculate.
that's
Yeah,
smart.
yeah,
I like the
but
Boomy Bash.
yeah,
Um, and I like that it's sort of like a removal spell to get me back into the game with all this card draw. So that's kind of nice for what my deck's doing. So now that I took this Foggy Swamp Vine I get a Cycle of Renewal, which is a lesson. And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe I want to be playing like some 3, 4 color lessons deck and sort of use this to ramp my mana and then accumulate wisdom to catch up and see where that goes. I don't think Merchant of Many Hats has any synergy with anything I have so far, even though it's a very good card in the format.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I would say even though Merchant doesn't have that much synergy, maybe with the lesson stuff, it does have synergy in like a blue-black control deck, just in the sense that it's like, like like I was saying earlier, like blue-black doesn't have a ton of creatures, so it's just something you can play that blocks. You can, if you have deadly precisions, if it has random synergy. Like it works in a blue-black control deck kind of. So I could, like, if it was me, like if I was drafting live, like I don't know if you'd make the same pick, but if it was me, I might just take Merchant under the logic that like if I'm in blue-black control, it's not amazing, but like there's there's 3 cards in the pack, right? It's like it could be a 2-drop that I could play that's just like a 2-mana blocker, which I kind of might be interested in a blue-black control deck, even though it's not like I would just see it as a blocker basically, and like that has sacrifice synergy, and yeah, I mean I don't know, like do you feel like, so obviously this is kind of an advanced pick, a Cycle of Renewal, like this is a kind of an advanced archetype if you take it or whatever, like a green blue multicolor lessons deck, but anyway.
So this is kind of like I've never actually drafted like the green blue lessons deck successfully. I did one time open Iroh when I was already base black, and I drafted a 4-color lessons deck that completely train wrecked. Um, so maybe the Cycle of Renewal is like the sort of pick that's not right for me at my level, and I should just take Merchant of Many Hats because it's clear that if I'm in a blue black control deck or even a black white aggro deck, if I end up forced to abandon blue, the Merchant could be like clearly good, but the cycle is hard to make work.
Yeah, I mean the thing I would say is that like if you draft controlling or soupy decks, because I draft those decks a lot, like having blockers is relevant because it's like people when they talk about limited, you don't always hear people talk about the importance of blocking, I guess, unless they're like Sam Black or somebody weird. But like, part of why yeah, it's like because like you don't like a lot of. I think a good example is like I would say like the Path to Exile Wall of Omens example. Like I used to say Wall of Omens was 2-mana Cryptic Command back in the day because they play Wild Nacatl, you play Wall of Omens, and it's like the reason that was so important is because if you didn't have Wall of Omens, you might have to Path to Exile the Wild Nacatl, which is so bad. And it's not that extreme and limited, but yeah, like you don't want to have to use removal on their shitty early. Like you want to block their shitty early guys, and I'm not saying pick back blockers, but I'm just saying like that's why like I would see like Merchant of Many Hats. I'm like, yeah, this fits in a blue black control deck, and I'm not saying it's a great blue black control card, but there's 3 cards left in the pack, right? And it's like this is a card you might.
Yeah.
So it's like just being like, oh, this is a card I can play early, so that if they play like Grizzly Bears, I can block it and like not take damage, which is like good in a control deck anyway. So yeah.
Sure.
And then here, yeah. Oh.
So then I get a really weird pick where now clearly black is open. So I should be taking Azula Always Lies. It is a lesson, and I should just say, okay, well, I punted all these black cards. So I end up taking the Razor Rings just to stay white.
Well, I was gonna say Razor Rings seems like by far the maybe my analysis is off, but it seems like by far the best card in the pack. I mean, I know maybe Azula like not. It seems like a really strong card, and it fits well. Like obviously it's not a lesson, but it kind of fits well in a controlled deck. It's good at buying time, cheap removal, good with like making the cantrips not fall behind. And I feel like Azula Always Lies doesn't seem like it's that good in your deck. You have no creatures, and the 2/3 doesn't seem like that good of a card. So I feel like that's a late Razor Rings. Like it feels kind of weird. Like I don't know. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. And then I just take the bad lesson that I don't want to play, but if I get forced to, I might.
Yeah. It seems reasonable. It's funny because the 3/4 would like if Accumulate was in Druid card, it would almost be tempting maybe. But anyway. Okay, so this is the pack.
The Cat Owl was an interesting last pick too, because that's just like now, that's actually a playable creature that I might be forced to play.
Yeah, if it comes to, okay, so this is interesting. Yeah, this is an interesting pick. So yeah, what? Yeah, did you have any thoughts here?
So I think there is a correct pick, and I think there is the greedy pick, and obviously the Oza I feel like is the best card in the pack. The second best card in the pack I feel is the Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper, and then the Earthbender Ascension and Path to Redemption. So I think these are the 4 best cards. I feel like the Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper would be really good, but it would kind of require abandoning the white. The Path to Redemption would be really good if I want to stay white, and then the Earthbender Ascension is kind of good if I want to do the Cycle of Renewal nonsense.
Yeah, to me, like when I looked at the pack, like I was kind of like I felt like you said there was like a correct pick and a greedy pick. To me, it felt like there was like 2 kind of reasonable close picks. Like I felt like between the Foggy Swamp guy and the Path to Redemption seemed like the 2 like it's kind of close between those. Like the problem with the Earthbender Ascension is I feel like you'll only have 1 green card, and like green is kind of shallow, so I don't want to dabble into it lightly. but obviously that's an amazing card, right? And
Yeah.
the Ozai, I don't know. I just feel like we're too far from it. Like we already have Legend, like we're giving up Legend of Korok and to accumulate wisdoms and all our white cards. So I'm not like really considering it that much. Maybe if you had like a bunch of black cards, you could think about it. But black red's kind of a sketchy archetype. Like I'm not saying that you should try and wheel this card and maybe this pack's too weak and like obviously you're not gonna wheel it. But you know what I mean? It's like maybe if you had a bunch of black cards, maybe, but like you don't have any red cards basically, right? Like Abandon's not really a red card. So I don't know. That's kind of how I felt. I don't know. Like, did you think between?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you think one of them
I
was
think
correct
one
and
of
bad?
these
Yeah.
would be good. I think the path is probably the right pick here. The foggy might be, but it's clearly one of these.
Yeah, I would.
So I take the.
I would say that between like the foggy and the path to redemption, sometimes when I have like those kind of picks, like I think like one way I think about it is like how much am I gonna miss this card if it's not in my deck, right? And it's like I'd be thinking if I'm in blue black, if I end up in blue black, I'm really gonna miss this foggy swamp whatever thingy. And if I'm in blue white, I don't like obviously gonna miss the path of redemption, but I don't know if it's gonna be like at the same level as foggy, so that might push me a little bit to foggy. And you're so likely to be like it's almost like less of a gold card because you're like kind of likely to be blue. I mean, kind of the way the draft's going, you're not you actually maybe you could be black white, which sounds kind of weird. But like you can imagine if like maybe later you took a bit more of like the black cards, maybe you might be like
No black cards other than trap.
yeah. Yeah, I just mean like in an alternate world where like imagine if later in the draft you just had like a second trap and maybe a canyon crawlers, and then maybe you're like, okay, maybe I could be black white, maybe you know what I mean? Like I guess what I'm saying with the foggy swamp bears, I'm trying to say like it's almost not a gold card because you're so likely to play blue, so it's almost just like you're either going to be blue black or blue white.
There's an issue with this card.
Yeah.
Accumulate wisdom draws cards but won't trigger this.
Yeah, that's like a minor problem. So obviously it comes down to like being like, okay, how good is this really? But like a 2/4 lifelink, like you know you do obviously it doesn't fit the best with the lessons, but like it is nice with the wisdom in some ways because it's just like if you play a turn 2 wisdom, it could be nice to play on turn 3. I guess I'm saying like that comes to individual, but I'm not like that giga concerned yet because you already have 2 pretty good cantrips. Like you have Legend of Korok, you have abandoned attachments, and you have the rare land, and also like if you're in blue black. You know, you might have more ways to trigger it, and it works with the sacrifice. And I'm just kind of thinking like 2/4 lifelink's a pretty good bot. Like, I'm just thinking like you don't need to work for too hard, and the wisdom can kind of like have synergy in that it gets you the tempo back in a different way. That like also like this is what I'm talking about blocking. Like Path to Redemption technically is like a good removal spell. So I feel like that's going to control deck. But I like that Foggy Swamp Redemption. It's just like real like control decks can like blue black is good at killing big stuff, and and like so it's like Foggy Swamp is just good at like like being the cryptic command for the wild Mikados. Anyway, I don't want to like rant too much about it, but I guess kind of like
Three tutus.
Yeah.
Is insane.
yeah, kind of what I'm thinking. It's just like that's how I would break down. That would be my like the thing I would be is like I feel like I would miss Foggy Swamp Benders more than the pacifism. So maybe I'll take the blue blacks thing. Obviously, you don't know which one you'd want to miss, and but obviously it's kind of a close pick. But yeah,
I agree with you, and I think that I last pack probably should have had a couple of more black cards. And so I think the foggy, had I played the seat better, would be clearly the best.
but yeah, you get yeah. It looks like you're thinking
So
about
I
it. There's a lot of
take the
cards. Yeah.
Earthbender. Yeah, I sort of take the Earthbender, and I'm not super happy about it. But then I get past Suki, and I'm like, okay. So there's invasion reinforcements, which is kind of insane with Suki. Water Tribe Captain's a good replacement level, higher than replacement level creature. The fan is pretty nice if you have waterbending synergies. I think it's also just nice as a blocker, just the 2/1 to throw down. Meditation Pools is interesting as well, but Suki to me is just such a powerful card, and it plays so well with my Yip Yip and Yang Yang's deserters that I'm really interested now in just
Yeah, it seems like you know illegal not to, like Suki's like one of the best cards in the set. You have a bunch of white cards already, so and like all those other cards, like you know what I mean. Like the fan is the kind of card you want to take much later. I feel like so, and this is also what I mean by like it's nice to kind of be open in pack 2, and I feel like because you see the Suki, I feel like it's pretty common in pack 2 that like you get past like two like a really good like rare and uncommon in a color back to back, and it's like okay, I want to move into that color, right? It's kind of like this is kind of the payoff to being a little bit open. You see the Suki pick 2, and it's like okay, like I'm gonna kind of like white might be open. Like you don't have to force it, but like here you already see like there's some other solid white cards. You know, there might be the Soko, and I mean that black uncommon's horrible. So yeah, it looks like is that what you're just like slam Soko here?
Oh, I just slam Soko. Just immediately.
Saka, yeah. So this is where it's like that's where it's nice to be kind of open that you can move into the lane because it's like wow now I just have two amazing white cards that are like when I draw them are going to win the game for free if my opponent doesn't have removal. So that's great. So yeah.
Yeah. So I take that, and now I'm thinking, okay, my deck's going to be blue-white aggro with the broken sort of like I want another Yip Yip maybe. I want to make sure my accumulate wisdoms are online, and then I have Legend of Kuruk to kind of finish. And so I end up thinking now, okay, I'm going to be blue-white aggro. And then I open up these cards, and it's amazing for blue-white aggro. Kyoshi Warrior, super strong. Invasion Submarine, that's like the best uncommon. For the deck.
And I was gonna say this is what I meant on the point earlier when I was saying you don't like remember when it was early in the draft and we're like talking about the lessons. It's like it's kind of too early to know 100% you're gonna move into lessons because now you can see the way the draft is progressing. You're moving into blue-white aggro and you're moving a bit away from the lessons stuff. You know what I mean? So that's where like you can't like know 100% necessarily that you're gonna force that archetype. But obviously like. It's not saying that it was wrong to take the lessons and build towards it because again it's like the questions are like what are you giving up, like you were giving up nothing to take the abandoned attachments, like the pack was so bad and abandoned attachments work so well with wisdom, but now the way the draft is going you're moving more you're moving more into a space, so again it's just like what are you giving up, like it's like you don't like just because you take a few early lessons card doesn't mean 100% a lesson because now you're getting Suki and Invasion Submersibles and Soka's pick 4 and Benevolent River Spirit and Pacifism and so
yeah. So this pick, I actually look at the River Spirit as being the strongest card in here. But I don't think it's the strongest for my deck, because I don't really support waterbending that well. My deck seems to be kind of low to the ground aggro, and I kind of have the legend. So I think I take the path here.
Yeah, I would say that's just like card evaluation. Like you kind of, like they both fit. They're both good in blue-white aggro decks. I mean, I would say that like you're kind of moving slowly in a direction where you are getting better at waterbending. Like I feel like blue-white is pretty good at waterbending. But it's just like you're gonna be they're blue-white aggro and they're both good at blue-white aggro. So it just comes to which you think is better and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's not like you're looking for an angle or whatever. Okay, so let's see here. So yeah. So it looks like there's 3 blue-white cards. There's a land. Yeah, what were you thinking?
So I like abandoned attachments as a way to keep the lesson stuff going, but I also really like glider kids. So looking at this pack right now, I would take the glider kids. I believe I took the abandoned attachments. I think the Ember Island production is the sort of card that I've never cast. I don't really know how good this is, and I don't feel like I have any good creatures to copy yet. I guess I could copy my Suki, or I could copy my Kuruk. Either of those would be really good. So maybe I undervalued this Ember Island production.
Yeah, I would say Ember. This is like a classic archetype of a card. And I think it's good. Like a lot of people will say it's weak. You know what I mean? It has like you kind of. Like, it's like, maybe you look at the data, it's not that great, and, like, people, usually if you talk to people, people will be like, oh, that card's not that good, but I would say, I don't know if I said it before, but, like, a lot of being good at draft is understanding how to get value out of cards that are not that good, or, weaker, or that later stage of the pack, and Ember Island Production is definitely a card that, like, you can, like, as you were saying earlier, you can do powerful things with it, like, you don't have that much to copy, but, like, it actually, I think it's like a mini combo, or it can be strong to copy the Submarine, because I think it makes it a 4/4, but then it becomes a 7/7 if you put the counters. I'm not 100% sure how that works. I think that's how it works.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, if you crew it, and yeah, you have the Suki, but I might be like, oh, like, again, I'm kind of thinking, like, my opponent's going to be casting strong uncommons, strong rares. I want to be doing powerful things, too. So I could see maybe I would dabble in the production, because blue-white kind of has a lot of ETB things. You don't have that many 5-drops. You have a couple okay things to copy. But also, obviously, it's a tricky card, because if your opponent bounces it, it could feel really bad. Also, sometimes you can clone their stuff, but that's not always great. And yeah, like, abandoned attachments is... Yeah, if they if they like airbend it, it can be like really bad. That's why it's like so like in any other set, I feel like it would be so much better. It's just that the tokens are a bit worse, so it's like can be variants. But that can kind of be like it would be good to inject variants kind of in a way, like just to like try. It's kind of like neoforming, like just kind of hope something powerful works. It's like at least you do something powerful. I mean, one thing I would say to like, I mean, it sounds like you don't have that much fear about doing something ambitious to be powerful, but something I think about, like sometimes a lot of people are scared to do things that are powerful that can backfire. But think of it, if you think of it like. Think of it like when you play against your opponent, and there's those games where like your opponent just doesn't do anything, and you're like, they just didn't do anything and they won. Like at least if you do something powerful and lost, at least you did something powerful. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm not too scared to like do something powerful that's gonna explode in my face. Because like if your opponent like does powerful things but it explodes in their face, at least you know what they tried to do. So that's in that direction. But anyway, like abandoned attachments, it's just weird because it like fits so bad in the blue-white aggro deck, but it's so good with the wisdom. So it's kind of a weird pick. And like Glider Kids, again, it's like maybe you just take that as a curve filler. It depends how much you like it or not. It's kind of a weird pick between those. And there's also Rumble Arena, but you don't really have the, you know, that much earth bending, obviously, in blue-white. So, but I mean, I feel like Rumble Arena is a strong card, but you have one of the worst decks for it, obviously. So I feel like it's kind of close between those three. I could see taking like the clone or whatever, but I think like that those are just kind of the considerations, I guess.
Because I took the abandoned attachments to get my lesson count up, but I don't like that pick.
Yeah, because it like fits so bad in blue-white. It's almost like it feels bad because the wisdoms are so good if they work, but it's so hard to make it work in blue-white. And yeah, here it looks like there's like 3 blue-white cards, I guess.
I see 2. I don't know. I don't know. Is this a card? Rabaru Troop?
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not even worth considering over the other cards, but I do think it's like, it's probably playable in blue-white, you know. But yeah, maybe it's just not even a consideration compared to Kyoshi or Waterbending Lesson. Maybe that's fair. To not even.
Yeah, and I think Firebender Ascension is a very strong card, but it's like definitely not a bomb. It's not like possible to splash. I mean, it's an aggressive.
And yeah, it feels too late. Like it feels like you just take the Lesson or the Kyoshi fan, probably depending on your curve.
I mean, I only have like 1 creature at this point.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. Like it depends on your curve. Like I feel like Lesson, you know, might be a stronger card, but depending on your curve. Yeah.
That curves into the submarine really nice.
And yeah, now you see another one that you could potentially take.
And the Platypus Bear, which was something I was actually looking for to sort of mill myself a little for lessons.
Yeah, it's like Platypus Bear is like kind of. I mean, it's specific to the format, so it doesn't translate to other formats. But it's definitely the kind of card that like when it's bad, it can be really, really bad, and it's like not that easy. Like that's the kind of weird thing. Like it's not that good in a blue-white aggro deck, but it's like how much you want to support the Lessons theme, and how good is it really in Lessons? Because it's like it's kind of a funny way of turning it on. Like it mills 2 cards, but it digs you. Like you're like, well, you could miss, but then you're digging 2 cards deeper. I guess what I'm trying to say is the mill 2 thing is kind of an abstract value from the payoff, right? Because obviously being a 2-mana 2/3 is not that insane of a payoff. It's almost more the fact that it mills you to getting the 3 modes on, but that's also kind of like a lot, like kind of nebulous how much value that's adding, right? So anyway,
I also have so much card draw that I could deck myself.
Yeah, that's definitely real. That's definitely real. Like people sometimes laugh at that stuff, but it's real. Yeah, I mean it seems close. Like it could be reasonable. You want the better blocker. You see another one. There's a late Pirate Peddlers and a thing where it's just kind of in blue-white at this point. Not that the Pirate's even good or whatever, but yeah.
I think the Pirate Peddlers is extremely bad because it can get bounced. This is a format with airbending, so just like something that all the 3-mana creatures that just sort of sit in play and get 1/1 counters, they all seem extremely bad to me, except maybe the ally one. That one has good data, but maybe that's just because it fills its role well in green-white allies.
Yeah, I would say like, yeah, I mean maybe Pirate Peddlers is unplayable, but I guess I just see it as like, you know, it's like if you're in a blue, like if you were in a blue-black or white-black control deck, like even though it's not great, it's like it depends how bad you really think it is, but it's the kind of card that like it trades as a real card, it fills the curve. Sometimes you get counters, and then it's actually, you know, some games it'll be a 3/3 or 4/4, and like it's kind of hard. Like if you're playing a pod draft, like if you play a draft with like 7 really good players, people are not going to have insane decks where they can just do the perfect thing every time. And I guess I'm kind of saying, like, as long as it's, like, cohesive and fits in my deck, I'm not as down on it. Like, that's kind of what I'm trying to say about the Pirate Peddlers. Like, imagine you're drafting with 7 really good people. It's hard for people to just do the perfect nuts deck on you, and then it might be better. But anyway, yeah, here, I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess
I don't think it's unplayable. I just think it's, you know, below average. So I get another Kyoshi Battle fan, Orange Kingdom Souls. And I feel like with the way my deck is now, it's more important for me to have the cheap stuff. I don't know. Yeah,
it's kind of weird because the weird thing you have going on here is you have you have a lot of accumulate wisdom is like a cheap and expensive card at the same time because it's like a 2-drop that doesn't impact the board. So it's kind of weird. Like you kind of do want 5 drops, but it seems fine to take Fan. Like this isn't even that good of a 5-drop, and you have some top end anyway. But like it's a weird situation. Like I do, it's good to have top end. It's good to have 5 drops in your deck. You just have a weird situation where you have Wisdom, which is a pseudo 5-drop 2-drop. So, you know.
Yeah. I guess I did take Earth Kingdom Soldier. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable. Like you don't have any 5-drops, I think, right now. So, it seems fine to get your first one.
And then here comes some weird stuff. Tiger Dillo.
Yeah.
I just slam a third Platypus Bear, I guess.
Yeah. Like you could almost consider hate drafting, but also like maybe Platypus Bear is a sideboard card. If you play against somebody with a lot of 2/2s, then you might want all 3. So, yeah, kind of fringe stuff, I guess. Okay. Yeah, kind of pretty rough. I mean, you either hate draft or take the lesson as like a sideboard card.
Yeah, I would just.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just like, do I hate draft the black card, or do I take? Will I ever side in Zuko's Exile? And it looks like you hate draft the red card. Okay. And
So
then,
I don't
yeah.
even know that I hate drafted that. I still am thinking, what if I'm green with this Earthbenders essentially?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't be because I'm so far into this really good Suki Sokka submersible deck that I really just want to have good 2 drops. And I think the Platypus Bear is just worse than the Fan because the Fan can turn on Sokka.
Yeah, an
So
airbend, and you can flicker
and
it. What? Yeah, did I
yeah,
say? I meant waterbend, but airbend too. Like sometimes you could airbending less in your thing to make extra token or whatever. It's just good with blue white as small creatures, like the equip ability, whatever. It's good.
yeah.
So let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
So now I get a really challenging pick, and I don't know if I did this right.
Yeah. So what were you kind of thinking?
So
Yeah.
there's like 4 cards I have my eye on. Jasmine Tea Shop is a really good kind of like finisher, but it makes my mana worse. And Suki's an ally.
Soka's an
Um,
ally.
Sokka's an ally. Legend of Kuruk is not.
Yeah.
So I mean, I probably should just be taking the tea shop here. But then there's a fortune teller, which actually isn't that good in my deck at this point. I'm more of an aggro deck, so the fortune teller is still probably fine, but not like it's better than Platypus Bear maybe, but not great. And then I think both of these blue and white uncommons are really strong. But I think the glider staff is probably the better of the two at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I
I
mean,
don't
my
know what
first. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say my first impression was kind of like slamming the glider staff. I mean, it's true. It's like you don't have like the ideal fortune teller deck, but you still have a solid one because it's good with Sokka, like the or whatever, like the 2/4 vigilance because it's just a 2-mana creature that attacks. It has, and if you do, it's good with like the airbend stuff. So if you get more airbending lessons or whatever, it's good with that. You have Suki, which pumps it. Obviously, it's not the best. It's like it's kind of a funny thing with Yip Yip because it's like obviously not the best creature with Yip Yip, but just any creature is kind of reduces the floor. So like I guess even though it's not the best fortune teller deck, I think it's a pretty good one. I mean, it sounds like you were kind of agreeing, and like also you open yourself up to having more. Like you have that mana wars thing. What's it called? The 3/3. You can just go turn 2 fortune teller, turn 3 bounce this thing, and you can instantly make it a 3/3. Right? So that's pretty good. But yeah, like glider staff is kind of funny because glider staff is like as you were saying, it's like very like the more aggressive you are, the better it gets. And like you're not giga aggressive, but it's just strong. It's just like yeah, just maybe just take it and be like hope it works out. Like it's like a strong card, just really strong uncommon. And I think it seems stronger than the North Pole Patrol. And like yeah, it just seems like a strong
So,
uncommon. So yeah,
all right, I gotta go to 17 lands for this.
okay.
So I think I made a mistake on this pick. So the glider staff has a 58. North Sea Patrol, North what?
Is it North? Let's
North
see.
Pole Patrol. This has a 56. Okay. So this card's actually nothing special. This is like an average card. Um, when I was drafting here, I wasn't looking at 17 lands. I tried to do that for some of the drafts I did, and that was kind of a bad idea, I think. It's better to look in review. But I got it in my head that the North Pole Patrol was just like this insane card with a really high win rate,
Yeah.
and I don't have a good sense of why. So like you can untap another permanent that can kind of ramp you from 3 to 5. Okay, that's nice. You can waterbend to tap creatures. That's nice if you're trying to race somebody. You can just keep tapping down their bomb. Um, don't know. I guess I massively overvalued this card because I do take it here, and I feel like it's the third or fourth best card in this pack.
Yeah, I agree. Like I would rather take. I think I would rather take the fortune teller, and it makes sense. I mean, it's good to like be aware of it.
Yeah?
Or no, I mean over the North Pole Patrol.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I would rather take the fortune teller than the North Pole Patrol. But it's good to be like. I mean, that happens when you draft. Like you take a card because you think it's good, and then later you're like, oh, it wasn't that good. It's like that. That's good. That's important to know. And yeah, North Pole Patrol is just more like solid. But also like what you were saying about my precious Pirate Peddler. It's like if my Pirate Peddler is so horrible because it's 3 mana vanilla, then what about this North Pole Patrol? Obviously, this North Pole Patrol is like probably a better card, but you know what I mean. That is kind of a funny thing. Like they are kind of similar vanilla 3-drops in some ways.
There's a little difference because the Pirate Peddler is less than vanilla. It's
2/2.
It's got the ability that it incentivizes you to sacrifice stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to put a little bit of work into it, and then if it gets bounced after you work on it, let's say you get it up to a 4/4 and they airbend it, now it's back to a 2/2. This thing at least will come back as the same thing.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. So it makes sense. I mean, that's a classic. It's like you thought a card was good, it actually wasn't that good, so it makes sense. But yeah, otherwise,
But, like,
yep.
Isn't the Jasmine Tea Shop the best pick here?
Well, I'm kind of concerned about playable levels a little bit. Obviously, it's like kind of hard to tell because we have like I don't see the exact numbers, but like this is where like and it's hard to do in paper like at the PT. I mean, maybe I don't like it's easier to do online. Like when online, it's very easy to just count how many playables you have. Like if you're drafting online, you can be like I have 15, right? But like if you're at the PT, it's pretty hard to count your playables. But I guess that's something like I feel like kind of like if we actually look at our playables and our curve, it might be a little bit dicey, and I might take the fortune teller and like the tea shop. As you're saying, it has cost was the mana, and I don't know if we have that many ally synergies. I don't want to overrate the tea shop. Like I just feel like the fortune teller like might be kind of good because like we kind of want creatures. We have some airbend,
Sure.
whatever.
So,
Yeah.
so
Like, I'm kind
I
of-
want to do an aside.
Yeah.
Stepping away from this draft. So let's say I've done maybe 2 drafts that are like high level, like top 8 of a RCQ or whatever ever. So you're at the Pro Tour. You're not allowed to look at your picks. What are the techniques that you're using to keep track of the cards that you have, your playable count, your creature count? Do you have any tips and tricks, or are you just kind of trying to remember the individual cards, feel it out, and then like counting in between packs?
Well, so I would say the best way to practice it, and it's good practice, is online. You can try and make it so you just hide. You can't see the pick, so you can. That's a good way to practice it. Like I would say, like try and practice online draft without looking at. You know what I mean? The hiding your picks, right? Like you see what I'm saying? That way you can practice it. I would say personally, my memory is not that good. So the way that I remember cards is like I pack one, pick one a card, and I'll just like say the card in my head a lot, so that like I don't know if that works for like everybody, but like I'll kind of just like repeat the first few picks in my head just so I remember them. I don't know if that makes sense, but like let's say pack one a red card, I'll just be like red, 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 and then like I get a blue card, I'm like red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, and then like red, blue, green. Like I have to do that because my memory's bad and I'm just gonna forget what I pick. But I don't know if that would work for other people. But yeah, like let's say pick one. That's kind of what I do. Like I'm literally just gonna forget my cards if I don't say it. So I'm literally saying it in my head. That might sound distracting, I guess, but I'm just kind of used to it a little bit. But don't do it 100%. I would say try and find out what works. Yeah, try and find out what works by like just draft online and hide your picks and try and like then you're gonna see it feels different when you can't see your picks. And then try and find out what works for you. That's what I would say. Like it depends how good your memory is. I would say. Yeah, they give you a review period. During the review period, I like to just, like, I kind of quickly brush, like, how many playables I have, the curve, because it is important to know, like, it informs your picks, like, are you missing 2 drops? Like, I do kind of, sorry, yeah, what were you saying?
How long's the review?
I think it's, like, between 60 to 90 seconds. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Would a good strat be, this is typically what I would do, just take all of my cards and my key colors, pull them to the front, and just order them by CMC.
Yeah, that's what I do. Like I try and like as soon as the review period starts, I kind of sort by color. Like I try and move all the colors, and then I'm like, okay, how much do I have in each color, so that I have an idea of like what I'm really in. And like earlier in the draft, the CMC doesn't matter as much because you only have a few picks, but it's good to keep in mind. But definitely like when you're moving into pack 3, that's when I'm like really organizing by CMC and being like, oh, I have no 4 drops. Definitely be on the lookout. Like even a medium 4 drop, I'm gonna be happy to take. So that's kind of what I do. Like I sort by color, and I try and be like earlier in the draft, it's like what color am I in, and then later in the draft, it's like what am I missing. It's just trying to pay attention to that stuff because obviously it's hard to do. But definitely like it's easiest. Just I would say just practice online, hide your picks sometimes, and then you'll like have to you'll see what it is like to not see any of your picks. Yeah.
And do you do like Draftmancer drafts
Yeah,
before the set comes out?
yeah, on
Okay.
Cockatrice, I think there's like a PT Discord server where people draft on Cockatrice, so you can draft early, before the set is out. So
Oh, okay. So I got to join that because I'm looking for people to draft with. I want to get some serious draft practice in.
yeah, I can try and find that because usually there's like a people have like a PT Discord where people will draft a set early on Cockatrice and or on Draftmancer. Sometimes people don't even play or whatever, but yeah, Draftmancer Cockatrice. That way you can draft before as soon as the spoilers out. Some people are gonna start drafting weeks
No,
before it's
I
released
want to
online.
draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to draft the day the spoilers drop.
Yeah, I can try to. I don't know if it's set up, but yeah, I can try and find the link, or if you ask in the PT Discord, or otherwise try and get you the link to that Discord. But yeah, people usually try and draft as soon as this thing is up. But anyway, so yeah, that's what I would say. I guess that's basically hide your picks when you draft online to practice drafting at the PT, and then you'll learn,
Okay.
what you're missing.
And
Yeah.
so at some point, I'm going to switch to drafting on Magic Online. Um, I guess that's an easier way to hide picks, and then it's also a way to practice best of three drafts. Because this deck feels to me like the sort of deck that would be really good in best of three. Because the only way I'm going to lose a lot of my games is if my opponent has like kind of the nuts, or if I stumble pretty hard. Because my deck feels very strong, and I ended up having a very weak record with the deck because my opponent has Day of Black Suns, and my opponent has some other crazy bombs that show up. Um, or like there was a game that I lost. One of my losses was just I drew like four lands in a row. That smooths out a little bit in best of three.
Yeah, I would say when you like do the single elims on Magic Online, I think it's I would say, yeah, Magic Online. I don't know how, like, there's the leagues, which are kind of similar to Arena. Like, people are a little bit loosey goosey, I would say. But I would say, like, the single elims on Magic Online are literally, like, the people there are, like, it's, like, better than the PT drafts. Because it's literally just, like, it's, like, usually just, the people who practice for the PT, right? So it's, like, the best PT drafters. I would say it's, like, a very different format when you join the single elims. And that's why, like, sometimes I get frustrated when I'm talking to people, because they'll be like, if you only draft on Arena, you, like, optimize for, like, different things, but like I would say, yeah, the single elims are such good practice because it's literally like harder than PT draft pods. I would say honestly, like those single elims on Moto, so they're great,
Okay.
and the leagues are fun. I mean, I would say this deck so far doesn't seem that insane to me, mostly because like I'm kind of concerned about the playable count, and I'm kind of concerned of like you have really strong cards, like you have Suki, Soka, whatever, but like you have a weird lessons package where like your lessons package doesn't fit that well in your deck, and you have all these platypus bears which are like not really the two drops you're looking for. So like I could see like you don't have that much amazing removal. Like your opponent could just play a bomb and then you just lose. Like that's how your opponent's trying to play bombs or trying to do powerful things. So I mean, you'll see how it ends, but if it was me, like at the PT and I'm drafting this, I would be like a little bit shaky, just in the sense of like, okay, I want to get my like last, like I'm thinking about my worst playables, and I'm thinking about like getting the curve, and like I'm just thinking like we have a good top end, we have a good top of the power stuff, but I would just be concerned about filling in the middle and making the deck cohesive,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
So in terms of that does make sense to me. What are the things this deck's missing at this point? I guess the answer would be more high impact two drops, maybe another high impact couple of three drops. I already have Suki Invasion and Sokka, which are all really good. I don't know how many three drops you want, because I think last time we had talked about curve, you said that typically you like to have like four drops in your decks. This one's a little bit lower curve than that, and the accumulates kind of are
The same,
my
yeah.
late game. But so if you're sitting here right now, pack two, you're reviewing this. You're thinking, okay, well, I've got one, two, three, four, five, six good white cards. I've got, if you count the accumulate wisdoms, the abandoned attachments, maybe two of the platypus bears. You've got like eight good blue cards. You've got the Sokka, that's both. That's only 15 playables, assuming I'm not playing all the platypus bears. So we need another eight or so playables. I guess there's a cat owl too. So we really are desperate for like seven playables. What do you want those seven playables to look like?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing I would say, just about the curves thing, I realized I was probably biased when I said four drops is good, because I usually like to draft slow controlling decks. Like, if you're a control deck, you probably want closer to four drops, because the game's going late. But, like, maybe, I would say 3 to 4 might be more accurate. You know, like, for the average, more aggressive deck, they're probably closer to wanting 3-4 drops, I guess. But anyway, I would say a big thing I'm thinking about is, like, you know, curve and cohesion. Like, I want to fill out my curve, and I want my cards to be cohesive with the strategy of my deck. So I'm just, like, I'm valuing cards that are, like, yeah, fit in my curve and that are cohesive with my deck. Like, that's kind of what's awkward is Accumulate Wisdom's a great card, but it's in the Bantam attachments, but they're not cohesive in your deck, so it's kind of awkward. And yeah, I'm kind of like, and it is kind of weird because, like, the less playables you have, the less of a base you have to know what you're missing, right? Like, that's why earlier in the draft, it's harder to be like, what am I missing? Because you only have 5 cards, you don't know what you're missing. So it's almost like, it's like, if you're missing 7 or 8 playables, there's so many different ways they could be cohesive or, like, combined together. But yeah, like, if I'm moving in the pack, I'm just thinking, like, I want a lot of, just anything that's cohesive in blue-white almost is what I'm thinking. Because you have a lot of places in your curve to fill out. Like, you kind of have a lot of places in your curve you can use. So I'm just thinking, I want cards that work cohesively in, like, sort of a blue-white deck. And yeah, just, like, cohesively in my strategy.
Aggro deck at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of, like, if you look at your thing, like, you have Suki, so, like, you're a little bit go wide. You have Soka, so it's like you kind of want, like, creatures and going wide. But also you have, like, Legend. The Legend thing is just, like, good with literally anything, just being controlling. And, like, so it's just, you don't have, like, a super strong theme all in a way, but you just kind of, you do kind of want cheap cards. I don't know how many airbending cards you have, but, like, just, like,
for lesson.
Yeah, like, and now you're picking up the glider stuff, but it's just like cards that work with Soka and Suki and Legend, which is, like, a lot of cards, I guess. I don't know, but it's, like, less, like, Accumulate Wisdoms and more, like, you know, maybe Fortune Tellers or 2 mana whatevers that play to the board or whatever. I don't know if that makes sense. Like,
so I guess more Kyoshi Battle fans, more forecasting Fortune Tellers. Those
yeah.
are the commons we're looking for.
But,
and then maybe in terms of removal, I would want, like, more Razor Rings Path to Redemption. Maybe I want more Yip Yip.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, maybe a bit, like, the thing that's weird is that, like, you have these Accumulate Wisdoms, and, like, let's say you see another blue-white lesson, like, let's say you see airbending lesson, or almost water bending lesson to a degree. It's kind of weird, because on the one hand, blue-white's not the best home for Accumulated Wisdom, but you already have them, you're probably going to play them, so it just makes lessons. Like, if you see a Quench, it's kind of weird, because I don't know how much mileage you're going to get out of just taking more lessons, but, like, maybe it'd be like, oh, I see another airbending lesson, maybe I'm a little bit into that, because I have 2 Accumulated Wisdom, but it's like, should you really be that much into a Quench? Because, like, is it really going to come together that you're going to get 3 lessons? You know what I mean? But this is, like, very specific to this exact situation you're in, where you kind of have a weird build around. And Accumulate Wisdom's weird, because you're probably just going to play it anyway. And, like, also just rares are good with Accumulate Wisdom. Like, it just means you're going to cast your Suki more, you're going to cast your Legend more. So, I don't know, like, if that makes sense. But, like, your Accumulate Wisdom's kind of weird in what it influences. Because on the one hand, you want lessons, but maybe you don't even want them that much. But maybe Airbending Lesson's just good anyway, so you take Airbending Lesson more than you take, like, a Quench or whatever. But anyway, that's... Yeah. I'm kind of thinking you just want... Yeah, you want a lot of things, kind of. Like, you have a...
Okay, so yeah. Airbending Lesson and Yip Yip seem like the clear best lessons for this deck that I could add another copy of. Do you think this is a good Quench deck, or no?
Well, I would say about Yip Yip, the thing I would say against Yip Yip is I think Yip Yip can be kind of sketchy. It's good and bad with Suki and Soka, but Suki and Soka want you to have creatures in play and want you to go wide, and Yip Yip's not always, like, you might rather have a cheap creature like a Flying Man kind of card than those. Obviously, Yip Yip's good with Soka in the sense that you're going to attack with Soka, and then you might want a combat trick to protect it. But, like, I might be like, you know, I don't know if I'm, like, going out of my way super hard for Yip Yips, because I'm just thinking I want to be going wide, and it's, like, not the best go wide card necessarily, if that makes sense. And, like, it's not the best with you.
Once you already have the creatures, but I need the creatures.
Yeah, and, like, you have this Legend, the blue, the 4-drop Legend of, what, I can't see its name, Legend of Thingy, and, like, Yip Yip's not necessarily the best with that, and it's not the best with Glider Staff either. Like, if you take Glider Staff, you just want creatures to equip with it, you don't want to have Yip Yips in hand and Glider Staffs. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And Quench, yeah, that's what I mean with Quench. It's weird, because on the one hand, Quench is a totally fine lesson. On the other hand, you're not a great Quench deck because you want to tap out on your turn, and it's like, are you even really going to realistically get to the 3 lessons? You know what I mean? That, like, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get there very often.
Yeah.
I think I drew 3 once.
But, like, you might pick it. Like, I might take it over a bear, over a platypus bear. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, So let me ask you. So you say I'm not a good quench deck. So my idea, which I think is bad, is okay. If I'm fairly aggressive, I'm putting pressure on my opponent, which is going to force them to play reactively into the quench. But then again, like I have the accumulate wisdoms that I can be holding up quench or accumulate wisdom, and I have the abandon attachments. So I figured like this was a good deck to go like turn four, just like play a 2 drop and hold up 2 mana. But maybe I just want to be spending my mana. I don't
Okay,
know
what
what
I
you
mean
think.
by a quench deck is, first of all, the thing I like about quench is that I keep talking about it, but I like commons that trade up with uncommons and rares. I think that's really important. I think that like what really matters, like as you were saying, is like uncommons and rares in a lot of games. So I like that. That's something I like about it. But it's not, you're not a bad quench deck. But what I would say is you have go wide elements. Like you have Suki and Soka. And I feel like Quench doesn't play the best with those cards, obviously, or Glider Staff. Like all three of those cards just want you. There's just like, please have creatures in play. And Quench is like, I'm not a creature. But like, it's totally like I like that. It's like totally like yeah, it's good in the way that you're a tempo deck that you can go turn four, play a 2 drop, pass with Quench, counter something. That's good. You have accumulate wisdom. You can pass with mana. If you have fortune teller, you can pass with mana. I'm only thinking about the go wide element, and I'm also thinking that like counter like your threats are more like wanting cards working together compared to like maybe a deck where the cards more like the more your cards stand alone, the better you're a quench deck because the less you need to work for your threats. But you have threats like
Okay, so
go wide cards. That's kind of what I'm saying. But quench is probably better than Platypus
better
Spare.
in soup when you have time to spare. So like, is quench better in kind of like a soup deck where I'm kind of just like my curve's spotty, but I have some really powerful top end. So like I'll counter your 5 drop with the quench and then slam mine.
I would say like in a way that's a way of saying it, but also almost more like the way I see it is more like what are your threats and how do you enable your threats? Like for example, in a blue red deck, you might not call that a soup deck, but blue red's trying to win. Like let's say your blue red deck's trying to be like the standard deck, right? Where they are playing the quench in the standard, where you're like I want to be one for one-ing my opponent and then like play like taking over with card advantage. Like I guess it's like it depends how your threats want you to build around them. So like your threats right now are like I want to go wide and quench isn't the best in a go wide deck.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Whereas like but Quench might be better in a deck where like you're playing blue black or blue red, and it's like my threats are like Canyon Crawler. Like I literally just cast them, it's good by itself, and Quench is good in that 1-for-1 game. And I'm not saying Quench is amazing in blue black or whatever, but you see what I'm saying? It's like the fact that your threats want you to like kind of build around them. It's kind of like I'll give a good example from Edge of Eternities. When I was like, wow, Cannon spells are surprisingly bad in this deck. I had the you said you drafted Edge, like the 2/4 thing that like made
No,
the
I didn't
seconds.
draft edge.
Okay, so this
I
is
don't
just
know that one.
so I'll just give an example of a card of like how count like if your cards want you to draft towards them. There was in Edge of Eternities, there was like a double spell seam deck where like you want a double spell on your turn. And I guess it's kind of obvious you can imagine a counter spell doesn't fit the best in a double spell deck. And like there was like an uncommon counter spell that was kind of good. And like I had two of these uncommons that really cared about double spelling. And I'm like, I didn't realize it after because I just was like, oh yeah, these cards are both good. But then after I drafted my deck, I realized like, wow, the counter spell was like really bad in my deck because my threat really wanted me to double spell on my turn, but like having a counter spell was really bad with double spelling on my turn. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about Quench. I'm just thinking like, how does it play with my threats, right? What are your threats and how does Quench play with your threats? And your threats really want you to go wide. That's kind of what I'm saying. But obviously Quench is fine,
Okay,
probably
so
better than Bear. I don't know if that makes sense.
sure, but like rather than turn four, play a 2 drop, hold up quench, my deck might want to just be playing 2 drops.
Yeah, it's like being pessimistic. It's like just like how do I best support my Soka? How do I best support my Suki? Like it's kind of obvious Quench is like not the best card with Suki and Soka, right? Um,
Yeah, so I think that's kind of my fundamental problem. I'm still locked in this draft. Like, Accumulate Wisdom is my best card, and it's not. It's the Suki and Soka. Obviously, the Legend is, but
yeah,
other than that,
yeah, and the
it's
legend,
Suki,
yeah,
Soka, Submarine, Legend. Like, with the Wisdom at this point is, I'll play it, but it's not anything too special.
yeah.
Okay, so here I get what seems like a strong pack for my deck. There's a Kyoshi Warriors, which I would love to have in this deck. Really good with Suki. Fortune Teller we talked about. Fan we talked about. And then I just have a dual land. And I slammed the duel here. What do you think about that?
Well, I kind of, like if you were drafting right now, would you slam the duel or like would you make how do you feel? Like if you were drafting right now, would you make the same pick or?
Well, I would have taken the airbending lesson. I think I would, so I kind of want to talk about
Oh,
this
okay.
pick because maybe I'm just overvaluing the value of a dual land. So, in my view, what the dual land does is it gets you an extra source. Instead of being like, 10 white sources, 7 blue sources, you can have 10-8 in your deck very easily because you have this. And so it's no opportunity cost to go into your deck. I don't have any one drops, so like if it's in my opening hand, I'm just playing it on turn one. Um,
Yeah, I guess.
that said,
Yeah,
maybe I'm light on playables and I underrated that, and I should be taking like Kyoshi Warriors or Fortune Teller.
yeah, exactly. That's why like the land argument's kind of a very complicated argument in draft, like when you should take lands and not. But here, I'm just really concerned about the level of play, like the amount of playables. And I feel like as I was saying in the last pick, like I feel like we're a really good go wide deck. We really want to go wide, and yeah, I think it's close. Like I might take the Fortune Teller, but I think taking the Warriors is fine too. But like they're both good. Like they both have synergy with Suki and Soka, and like go being a go wide blue white deck, right? So, and I'm just concerned. Yeah, I'm just concerned about the level of playables. Obviously, the land's great, but I would just be concerned about not having enough playables, and I feel like these are pretty good commons. Yeah.
So do you think like, a 9-8 mana base for this deck would just be totally fine? Like just play, you know, 8 islands,
I mean,
nine
yeah,
lands.
a lot of the time you're not going to have a dual land in draft, right? And maybe you'll play 8-8 depending on your curve or 9-8. Obviously, the land's great, and I always reference Sam Black, and Sam Black says that he like tends to take lands like at above average commons abstractly. Like Sam Black takes lands really high. I
But
think
he also
yeah.
plays a lot more colors.
Yeah. But I would say the problem is this is later in the draft. Like I would say the earlier in the draft, like the problem here with the land is that like Fortune Teller is like one of the best blue commons. Obviously, you're saying it's not the best Fortune Teller deck, but you're light on playables. But like I would say it depends what you're taking it over. Like I would just say the fact that you're not always gonna have a dual land. I'm just really concerned about playable count, and I would just so that's why like obviously it's nice to have the land, but it's like what are you giving up? And it's like if you're giving up a great common when you're like light on great commons. That's why I would probably move. I don't think it's crazy to take the North Pole. It's just that I'm like kind of like I feel like we really want to go wide, and I like that we have two good go wide cards here. So I'd probably take the Fortune
Okay,
Teller.
so you think that the Warriors of the Fortune Teller would be better?
Yeah,
I think that's good context for me because I probably just figured I have to take the land here, and it's nice to know that okay, if I'm light on playables, I don't actually have to take the land in my two color deck. Now this does feel like a 16 land deck, but then again I'm light on playables, so I would always play a 17th land over like a pretty bad 23rd card.
yeah. I mean, it's worth noting you have Accumulate Wisdom too, which and like Abandoned Attachments, and if you play those like are kind of mana fixing a little bit. Like they help you find your colors or whatever. But I would say, yeah, I don't think like you need to have a dual. Like I think a lot of limited decks are just gonna have all basics, and like if you have a dual land, that's nice, and like if you can pick one, that's nice. But it's like, what am I giving up to pick it, right? It's like the Sam Black method is like he usually wants to take them below like a top common, and like arguably those are two top commons, so like maybe you should take the top common. Like that's a way to think of it. Like what are you giving up for the dual land? And it's like you probably don't want to give up a top common necessarily. That might be a heuristic to think about, right? It's like maybe if it's an average common, like maybe if it's a battle fan, you can take the land, but if it's like a fortune teller, maybe you should take that. Yeah. Anyway, so here.
Okay, so now I get an interesting pack where I think I'm way too far away from Gather the White Lotus. Um, Gran synergizes with my lesson stuff, and she's kind of like a one drop to go with Suki and Sokka, and she can loot away lands. That's the other thing I like about the abandoned attachments. But then there's also a path to redemption. So it seems to me like those are the only two reasonable cards to take here. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's between Gran and Pass, and this is a very interesting kind of pick where like Gran obviously, as you keep alluding to, is like a build around. Like Gran like the more like ways you have to take advantage of it, the better she gets. And like I guess like it's the floor ceiling. Like Path to Redemption, if you take it, it can't be that bad really, but it also can't be that broken. Whereas Gran has the more potential. And like then you're just kind of being like, okay, how well suited am I to taking Gran? And you're like, yeah, you have some synergy. Suki pumps it. Soka wants cheap creatures. You have some lessons, but kind of a sketchy lesson theme, and you have like some water bending. Like it's great to like crew the whatever it's called, the submarine was Gran. So that's what I've been thinking with Gran. And the Path to Redemption, it's like, yeah, it can't be as impressive, but it's like fine standalone. It does have some synergy with Go Wide, like with Suki, you can make 2/2/1s when you crack it or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Um,
nice.
I think it's a close pick. Also, there's a unique thing about one drops. I think there was like an old Ben Starks thing where he said one drops are literally cost 0 mana because you're not going to do something on turn one anyway. So it's like,
Yeah.
that's like one drops are nice. Like if you can have nice one drops, it's playable. Like that almost makes me interested in Grand because yeah, like most of the time turn one you're not going to do anything. So I think it's close. I could see taking Grand, but obviously that's just kind of the way to think about it. Like Grand, if you can't enable her, she can look kind of embarrassing. Pass Redemption's always going to be fine. So I think it's kind of a close pick. I don't know. I think either way is fine. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that. Like it's kind of tough because I really like one drops. I really like uncommons, but also like I don't know if we can get there completely on the Grand. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know if you have.
Yeah,
It's nice with the Yip too. I like Grand, yeah.
I took Grand, but part of that is just because, Grand's cool in standard. When Grand got spoiled, I almost put her in modern in Jeskai Ascendancy
Oh wow.
combo. You can actually, um, so I mean, I'll give you my secret tech that I haven't actually worked on, but there's a card that combos with Grand that you can fetch off Urza Saga, which is Paradise Mantle. And Grand also works well to enable your Mox Amber. So what you can do is you can fetch up Paradise Mantle, put it on the Grand with the Jeskai Ascendancy, and loot twice and make a mana every spell you cast, which will very easily get you to, with repeals and other Moxen and stuff, it'll get you to in Emery plus Quarry Steelcutter to, actually combo
Yep.
kill your opponent. So
That
it allows you to win through Solitude much more easily with the Paradise Mantle because you can just put that on like anything, like a Core Steel Cutter token. You
yeah.
don't have to have Emery to combo kill.
Yeah, I would say like the thing that I like about Grand in this particular deck here is kind of what I was saying. Like I feel like you're kind of a go wide deck. Like I'm not trying to be like because you're not like a giga go wide deck, but I feel like one drops. It's just nice with the go wide stuff, and it's just nice when you're trying to go wide to have one drops that are good. Like good one drops are nice in go wide decks. Like that's kind of obvious. So anyway, yeah, yeah.
This next pick here was really uncomfortable for me because I feel like the Waterbending Ascension is actually a pretty good card, but I also already have all these card advantage engines, so I don't even know if I would play it.
Yeah, this like what were you considering anything else in the pack? Like were you like or were you just that's the first thing you're thinking about is this because this Waterbender Ascension is kind of it's kind of weird. Like and it actually has okay, I'm not I know like you said not mention data too much, but I did search its data and it has a 45% win rate. Obviously it's like a build around, but like I'm not saying that means it's bad, but that just means if you play it, you have to be aware that like you really have to get, make sure you know how to get the juice out of it. Because I've definitely like it's definitely weird because it almost reads like Enduring Curiosity a little bit, but it takes a lot of effort. Like I feel like this card really wants like cheap creatures, cheap evasive creatures, and like that's kind of almost what you're like light on in some ways, not necessarily, but yeah. I mean, I would say yeah. So that's the Ascension, but yeah, the other cards aren't like you have like 4 mediocre cards, right? 4 blue white like were you like thinking about the Crashing Wave or what like Rowdy Snowballers or one of the other?
I feel like neither of those would make my deck, but maybe I'm low enough on playables that they would. But basically, I took the Waterbender Ascension and did not play it.
Yeah, I guess like Crashing Wave is a card that like almost seems kind of playable to me, and I guess this is also like an interesting angle. Like I'm not saying it's good in this, but it's like to give like for how it fits to all formats. Is sometimes you see a card like Crashing Wave, and it's like kind of not that good of an uncommon, right? I mean I don't know how much it is, but okay, let's say there's an uncommon that's not that good, and you look at it and you're like, this uncommon is not that good, but then you also look at it and you're like, can I make it good in the specific context of my deck or get scrappy? And like it does technically say Waterbend, and technically blue white is a water bending deck. Obviously, maybe the way that it water bends is not that good in your deck because you're not like going wider. You're not gonna one shot them or whatever. But like technically, I'd be like, okay, this uncommon is not that good, but is it at its best in blue white because it says water bending? You know what I mean? So I might be like thinking about that. I'd be like, huh, maybe that's interesting. Or maybe it's like none of the cards are that good, but like, yeah, it looks like it's not performing that well in blue white. But like, it's kind of like the thing about like single like sometimes you really have to get scrappy and really get value out of the picks because like this is kind of an awkward pack. So like if you don't like if you like don't think Waterbending Ascension is going to be that good, like let's pretend Waterbender Ascension's not in the pack and you're just looking at Crashing Wave, Rowdy Snowballers, whatever, like that can kind of help you be more ambitious or like be more like be like, okay, maybe this card's not that good generally, but maybe specifically in my deck right now because I'm literally in blue white. Like maybe a card's not that good because you know what I mean. And like you look at the other cards or just like again, it's like maybe
Sure,
Crashing Wave.
Crashing Wave in the deck.
or like maybe it's like because the other cards are so bad, like it's like maybe Rowdy Snowballers and these other creatures are so bad that I should just take the Crashing Wave because maybe it'll be better as like a sketchy removal. But I don't know. Like yeah, if it was me, maybe I would just take a creature to try and fill the curve or the thing. But that was just kind of like a general concept of like yeah, you see a card that's bad, but it's like maybe I can get value out of it rather than just think the card is bad. Be again like what is my deck missing? Does it have synergy in my deck? Whatever. Anyway, because you're
I don't feel like that card would be good in my deck because
yeah.
the fail case of my deck is I don't have enough creatures to pressure them, and that card does not solve that at all. Like the games where I don't have any creatures in play, just tapping their stuff down is just going to delay my defeat. So it's kind of only good in my already good hands, which I don't like.
Yeah, but yeah, like or just like in a more general, like that's how yeah, like generally it's like it's good to be like, could my deck want this card even though it doesn't look that good? But yeah, it makes sense. It's not Crashing Wave is not that good in your deck. Anyway, so what were we gonna say about?
Okay, so this next pack is interesting because Professor Zay is a really strong card and it has synergies with the lesson stuff, but it is double blue. And then there's just Idle Quencher, which has synergies with the lesson stuff, which was a card I was actively looking for. Now after discussing it, it doesn't seem as good. But I think Vengeful Villagers is, I mean, probably only good in the
Black White
deck. And the data on this card is awful. This card just looks bad to me. And Firelord Zuko is not clearly not something I could play. So it has to be between these two. So I take the Idle Quench, but I don't know if I should just be going for Professor Zay as the like much more powerful card.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like both you're like not I. Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I might go for the Zai just because, like, I like 2-drops out of utility in the late game, but obviously it's double blue, so the mana's thing. I like that, like, it feels like your game plan is casting rares, so I like that Zai, like, digs to the rares. You don't have the most cards to get back. You do have a couple, though. It is kind of nice with Suki because it's technically sacrificed. It seems kind of close. Like, either seems fine, but I do like that the Zai... It's probably I just like looters probably more than most people. I don't know if you have any draw 2 synergies in your deck. Like if you had the foggy benders or whatever, then it would be nice. You don't really have that stuff going on. But yeah, I mean it seems
I don't have an otter.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah. I might just take the Zai just because it's like a creature and like I'm probably hammering it too much, but it's just like it makes your Suki and like it makes your Soka and Suki a little bit better, whereas the Quench doesn't really synergize with them. But obviously it's double blue anyway. So yeah, this pick looks like there's like Kyoshi Warriors, Deserters. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is just 100% Kyoshi Warriors.
Yeah, seems fine. Seems like makes sense. Yeah, it's a nice go wide card. Your deck would kind of almost want that like sketchy 3-mana 2/2 that gets triggered. Like you don't have too many ally synergies, but it's just nice go wide, equip stuff to it, water bend stuff.
Which card?
I was gonna say like the 3-mana 2/2 that gets bigger when you play. Like I would say you don't have that many ally cards necessarily, but you have a lot of just go wide cards. Like if that makes sense. Anyway, so yeah. Oh, here, yeah. There's Earth Kingdom Protectors, I guess. I don't know if you slammed that or. Sorry.
I absolutely should have, but I took an Idle Quencher again. I think I tunnel visioned way too much on these accumulated wisdoms. I mean, Earth Kingdom Protectors is just clearly really good with Sokka, really good with Suki, both as an aggressive creature with vigilance and to attack with, and also it can protect them. I don't know why I didn't take.
Yeah, I mean, you were thinking about like I want to get the like lessons are good, and like the thing about the 1-drop is you need creatures to protect. You only have a couple like good creatures to protect, but like it is good synergy, with protecting them. Anyway, yeah, here, so yeah.
Here I should probably take the Fan to replace some of these Platypus Bears. I think I do take the second North Pole Patrol. I mean, that card was just not very good for me during the draft. One of the games I lost to it was because I accidentally passed through pre-combat, but
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like one of the things about this pick is that North Pole Patrols is like what I would call like this is a card that can come up. Like it's not that good of a card, but it almost gets better. Like the more like synergy you have for it. Like imagine if you had those Compassionate Healers or whatever it's called. The 2-mana 2/2 when it's tapped, do that. Like if you had a lot of like the thing about North Pole Patrol, it's like not amazing, but if you had a lot of like water bending support, then it could get a little bit better. Like you have Grand, right? So imagine if you had like 2 Grands and 3 Compassionate Healers over the Platypus Bears. Then you might be like, oh, this card's not that great, but I have so many ways to waterbend that okay, that's kind of cool. Or like the Fortune Teller or making clues. And yeah, it comes down to curve too. Like both these cards are kind of mediocre. But I guess what I'm saying is North Pole Patrol has a dream of like you have a bunch of Grands and healers and like clues, and then it's kind of cool. And like Kiyoshi Battlefan also has a dream. Kiyoshi Battlefan's dream is enabling the waterbend. Like what was that 7-mana benevolent spirit? That's Kiyoshi Battlefan's dream, is ramping out the spirit. So that's kind of how I'd be thinking about between these two cards. Like they're both not that good, but it's like what are their dreams? What do they support? Whatever stuff like that. And like the curve, obviously, like you were saying, maybe you want more 2-drops than 3-drops at this point. But that, yeah, because you can get a lot of value. Sorry, you can get a lot of value if you're like paying attention to like, oh, I have a lot of good, like if you had a lot of good waterbending cards, it's like, oh, North Patrol's not that good, but I have so many ways to support it that it actually could be good here, even though it's not that good. And even though it's like not what your deck is doing, it's just like a little pocket of synergy in your deck that you get late. And yeah, wow, like there's a lot of good, nice cantrips here. Yeah. So yeah, you take this thing, makes sense.
Got a fortune teller. We kind of got bailed out.
Yeah.
And then we get, whoa, what happened?
Look like a Rowdy Snowballers, or did it skip a pick?
That was pick 12? How did we jump from pick 9 to pick 12? I'm not sure.
I guess we could just go back 10 seconds. Oh, another.
Get another fortune teller, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And then here, I probably don't play any of these cards.
I mean, if it's best of 3, it's interesting. Like the removal spell is not a great removal spell, but like you could maybe side it in some matchups. And there was, I forgot what the other card was, but it looked like kind of reasonable. I don't know if it was a Rowdy Snowballers, but those pick like I might have like if you're not gonna play the Giant Koi, you could maybe take the thing as a removal spell for if they put the right matchup. And I forget there was like another playable creature maybe you could take. But anyway, yeah, it looks like, yeah, okay. So Fortune Teller, yeah, makes sense to take it. You're like, okay, nice. Yeah, here. Oh yeah, the Geyser Leaper. Yeah. Like I was gonna say the Geyser Leaper is like a card that looks kind of bad, but like if you don't have any other, like if you don't have a lot of 5-drop, like you are technically a waterbending, like you're technically Blue White's the waterbending deck, and technically, you know, it's a card that can win the game by, like it can be a high impact card. Like it's kind of the kind of card that like, this is what might trip people up when they do like pod drafts, is like you play on Arena and you're like, oh, it's illegal to play this 5-mana 4/3, but when you play a pod draft, and the game's a scrappier, the 5-mana 4/3 is going to be better because like it can win by itself. I'm not saying it's great, but like I could see considering it, like if you don't have 5-drop and if you have a lot of like airbending stuff, waterbending stuff or whatever, not that it's like an amazing way to set it up or it's an amazing payoff, but you know what I mean? Like I could see considering it just like for curve considerations and like because it's it closes the game and you like it can be higher impact, or yeah, maybe take the Sandstorm for the sideboard, because if you're not going to play the Giant Koi, then like it's pretty bad. But if you're going to play it, then like sure, it's fine to take it. And yeah, last pick, not even a choice, I guess. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's take a look at this deck, because I basically have like what looks like a pretty nice pool here, and I want to see how you would build it, and how I would build it is not necessarily how I did build it now after talking to you.
Yeah, just give me like 20 seconds. I need to grab something and then I'll look at it.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, let me know whenever you're back.
Alright, I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, so you said, how would I build this pool, I guess?
Yeah, so let's start sort of with high level of what kind of deck is this? And so do you still believe that this is kind of like a go wide deck, then with a minor lessons theme? Because I had it flipped.
I was like, this is a Lessons deck with a minor go wide theme.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you have these are all the 46 cards here. There's like nothing in the sideboard, I guess, that's like worth looking at. These are just like all the playables. I just want to make sure of that before. I mean, it seems like that. Yeah.
There's like the 3-mana 2/2 that stuns something that's in the sideboard, but I just can't show it to you because this isn't recorded.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. No, I just wanted to be like to make sure that I'm like looking at. Yeah.
Let's assume you're looking at everything.
So let's pause here. I mean, I guess we can go back 1 second because there's like another 4-drop. I guess that disappeared.
Well,
though.
it was the Vengeful Villain.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. This is a better picture then, I guess. Okay, so yeah, how would I build this? Okay, so pause here.
Shoot.
Hang
on, sorry. Let me get back to 45 cards.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah. So
this
here.
is where I want to be.
Okay. Well. Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Lessons deck first is it's like, I mean, you played the games, but like it doesn't seem that easy to get. Like the Accumulating Wisdom needs 3 lessons in the yard, right? So it needs to be the 4th lesson you cast. So it seems like hard to play towards like that's my main game plan. Like I don't know, like I mean, obviously you have all these Platypus Bears, but that's just what I'm thinking. Like the Accumulated Wisdom to get 3 lessons in the yard, it has to be your 4 lessons. You have 6 lessons in your deck. That means you'd have to draw like 4 out of the 6 lessons, and then once you pay off like a draw 3. So I don't know. It just feels hard to like bank on winning. Like I feel like it's hard to bank on Accumulated Wisdom draw 3 to win the game. I could see maybe still playing all the lessons because like they're okay by themselves. Like Abandon Attachment and Idle Quencher are like okay playable cards by themselves, and like maybe you just need them. And obviously you have the Grand True, which I guess is like a pseudo lesson. But I do feel like the way that you're going to be winning the games is like you cast Suki, you cast Soka. I mean, maybe like you have the Fortune, like you cast Legend of Korok. So yeah, I don't know. Like I do feel like it'll be easier to win games where you just cast Suki or Soka on curve or Legend of Korok on curve and then just win, rather than like it seems like quite hard to get to the wisdom. I don't know if that answers the question on like but obviously like you have to build with what you have. And again, it's like that's the thing. Sometimes it becomes it's weird. Like you might have these Platypus Bears, and you're like, oh, Platypus Bears technically helps me enable my lesson plan. But like I was saying before, it's like, how much is it really doing? Like how much is it really doing that? Because it's like sometimes it's cards that do something, but the thing they do is like so minor that it's like hard to be like, is this really worth a card? You know what I mean? So that's kind of what the Platypus Bear is doing. Like it's doing something I would call nebulous. Like the mill 2, the value of it milling 2 is what I would call nebulous, right? Like it is value and it's technically working towards your lessons plan, but like it's nebulous value because like which means like a lot of the times it's just not worth anything, but sometimes it might be worth something. Like if you randomly mill like 2, like if you high roll and mill 2 lessons, it's like whoa, that's crazy. But anyway,
yeah, or I could low roll and mill my legend.
Yeah, but like a lot of the times what I mean by nebulous value is like the concept is like sometimes a card's like it's gonna do something for you, but sometimes it does nothing for you. I mean, I guess I'm just repeating myself there. So that's what I'd be thinking. Yeah, but I'd be like probably if I was drafting this deck. I mean, I wouldn't think this deck is nutty. I would be like, okay, like I feel like I'm gonna try and win with like my Suki and Soka and my Articulate Wisdoms. I don't feel like I can realistically bank. I mean, that's what I was saying, and I'd probably be like, yeah, like trimming maybe some Platypus Bears. Like it's hard to trim the top end because like you're saying, like you don't have a lot of 5 or 4 drops. So I kind of want to keep them all. Like Cat Owl is pretty bad, but like maybe you'll play it just because like it might be better than a Platypus Bear, right?
Okay.
And yeah, I'd kind of be trimming like some of my 2 drops because it looks like you have a lot of 2 drops. Yeah, so like maybe some Platypus Bears, but like, or sorry, like it's kind of like your 3. Like if you kind of look at it, it's like kind of like you probably don't want to trim. Like it's like what cards do you not want to trim, right? It's like, well, you probably don't want to trim any of your 3 drops because they're all kind of good. You probably don't want to trim your 5 drop. Like I mean, maybe you do, but like it's kind of good with your deck because you're like go wide and you don't have any other 5 drops anyway. Like it's limited. It's gonna be turn 5. You can cast your 5 drop. It's not illegal to put 5 drops in your deck. And yeah, so I'd kind of be like trimming these 2 drops probably, and like maybe you want the Yip Yip because like sometimes what I do is I sort like I'll be like, what are my like combat trick kind of things, and like your only combat trick is Yip Yip. So like the less combat tricks you have, the more like that's an obvious concept, right? The less combat tricks you have, the more value they get. And oh yeah, I guess I didn't count Yip Yip as a lesson. You have 7 lessons. So yeah, I mean obviously you're not gonna cut like the Yip Yip's kind of good in your deck. Yeah, I don't know. Like, was there any close? Like, what were you thinking were like hard to build? Because to me, I'd kind of just be like trimming Platypus Bears a bunch because like we have so many 2 drops maybe trim Cat Owl. But I'm like, you obviously can't trim Grand Grand or Yip Yip. I don't really want to cut the Earth Kingdom Soldier. Maybe you could consider it. Can't really like there's so many cards you can't cut, I guess, which is kind of yeah.
I think I can cut a land. Like I can just cut an island.
Yeah, 16 lands is reasonable. Like it is. Yep.
I think I could cut another Platypus Bear. I did cut the Earth Kingdom Soldier, but I feel like I shouldn't have.
Yeah, like honestly, I think like I like it more than the Cat Owl. Like if I had 2 Earth Kingdom Jailers, just because like it kind of like you aren't kind of go wide, and yeah, like you putting counters on like North Pole patrols and whatever is kind of nice. Just being a 5-drop, like it's like you're pretty good at distributing the counters in your deck because you have so much like crap to put stuff on, like so many cheap cards. And I'd almost be like maybe like looking to trim more of the Platypus Bears and being like, we have a lot of 2-drops. Like yes, Accumulated Wisdom, like you're probably thinking is kind of a 4-drop, but it is also kind of a 2-drop because you're gonna play it on turn 2 and it's gonna have some effect on the game. You know what I mean? And also like I just feel like when I cast Platypus Bear, it's gonna do so little to impact the game. I mean I don't know how your games play out, but like your late game is not that amazing. You're almost leaning more aggressive, and Platypus Bear is kind of like not letting me pressure my opponent and whatever.
So I think I misevaluated. Maybe I should have just cut all the Platypus Bears and 1 land and called that the deck.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Yeah, like the kind of.
I'm looking at what I did, and I cut Zhongzhongs and I cut Kyoshi Battle Fan right here, and I don't know what I was thinking. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell because again it has nebulous value, but again it's just thinking like what do I really care about in the games, and I guess that's like a helpful concept. I mean, it sounds like you understand like synergy and stuff, but like a lot of times people are like. Sometimes it helps. It's just like, what do I care about in the games? And it sounded like you thought you cared about lessons, but then maybe you didn't care about it as much, right? But it's just like, that's the question you're asking. What do I care about in the game? And like, sometimes a bad card helps me play towards that. Like, part of why I don't mind the Earth Kingdom Soldier is like, even though it's like you don't care about it maybe that much, but it's just like you're going to have like 2/3s and making them 3/4s, like, is pretty good. You know what I mean? And you just don't have that many top end. And like, it's just, yeah, anyway. You have so many good go wide elements basically to throw the counters on. Like, making your Fortune Teller 2/4s and making great like anyway and like flyers, making Cat Owl a 4/4. Yeah, sorry.
Sure. So I think maybe Cat Owl is cuttable, but the Platypus Bears seem like the sort of sore card here.
Yeah, and I think probably the big thing is just that like you have so many 2-drops, and probably in your head you're like, oh, but Abandoned Attachments and Accumulated Wisdom aren't really 2-drops, but they also are kind of 2-drops. You know what I mean? They're not completely 4-drops. You know what I mean? They are, yeah. Like, if your opening hand has Abandoned Attachment and Platypus Bear, you know what I mean? The way your curve out's going to be kind of awkward, in a way. Not awkward, but you know what I mean? Like, you have a lot of things to do on turn 2. But yeah, that's kind of what I think. Like, nothing too profound or anything, I guess, on the build.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I ended up cutting Island. I have way fewer white cards, but one of them's double white that I really want to play on curve. And I brought back in the Battle Fan, but I think that the Zhongzhong Warriors would probably have been better than Platypus Bear, and I think that the 5-drop also would have been better than Platypus Bear or Cat Owl. Platypus Bear during the draft, I actually found myself holding it in hand and just looting it away very often because the 2/3 wasn't getting that much value for me as a defensive resource or an aggressive resource. I don't know, it just wasn't very good for me. And the mill 2 was actually a downside because I was playing games that I was like, oh shoot, I'm at 10 cards left in my deck. I cannot play this Platypus Bear.
Yeah, like if you mill your high impact cards, it's hard to win. And also, I guess one thing about defenders, I'm not trying to say anything against defenders too much, but there was an old saying that people said that like the thing that sucks about defenders is when your opponent's mana screwed and you play defender, it feels so bad. So like that always leads me a little bit more to like, or like when your opponent's stumbling, it can feel so bad to play defender. So that might lead me a little bit to the Battle Fan. Obviously, it's not a complete defender, but you know what I mean. Like that's always something to keep in mind with these creatures that can attack. Also, I would say one thing, it's kind of a weird detail is the 16, 17 lands. Since if you believe your last playables are bad enough, I could imagine going to 17 lands, because you do have some things that help you from flooding. Like, you have 2 of your lands are utility lands. Abandoned Attachments can loot away extra... Like, Abandoned Attachment goes both ways. Abandoned Attachments can make you play less lands good, because, like, you're less likely... Like, it works both ways. You're less likely to screw or flood. But that can make the 17 lands better. So I could see playing 17 lands, just if your last playables are too bad, and you have enough... Like, you have ways to mitigate flooding. But, like, I think it's fine to play 16. Like, it goes both ways with the cantrips. Yeah.
Can you still play 5-drops when you're playing 16? You can play 1, right?
Yeah, I think you can play 5-drops. I mean, also it depends on the support. Like, this deck is good at hitting its land drops because you have Accumulate Wisdom, you have Grand Bran, so, like, hitting your land drops isn't that hard. Like, so, but, like, also if it's a good 5-drop, like, I usually wouldn't be that scared, especially if it's your only 5-drop. Like, if it's good enough, like, it depends how good it is. Like, if you have if you have Thunder Maw Hellkite, you're gonna play that in your 16-land deck, even if it's hard to cast. So, but, like, yeah, I feel like the Earth Kingdom thing, like, the 5-drop, like, it's not an amazing 5-drop, but it's, like, the impact's like, it's solid impact. Like, you're gonna cast it, it's gonna be fine. You know what I mean? Because the way that your deck works is, like, yeah, like, the way that your deck is you have so many kind of 1-for-1s, and you don't have, like, you have enough removal and stuff to make it work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think we just hit the 2-hour mark, which is about what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
This was helpful, but I want to ask you one more question, and it has to do with mulliganing with this type of deck. So, in limited, what's your philosophy on mulliganing when you don't have both of your colors? Let's say you kind of open your hand and it's like, okay, I have Forecasting Fortune Teller and I have like Suki, but I only have 2 islands.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the easiest heuristic I would use for mulliganing is I always think, what would I think? Like, let's say it's a 7-card hand. I would say, what would I think if I saw this hand on 6 cards? Because I think that reveals a lot. Which I don't know if that that sounds too asinine, but like a lot of the difficulty with mulliganing is when you have hands that are kind of close, and like you're like, this hand's not that great, but I don't know if a mulligan's better, right? And like it kind of there's a lot of hands that you might like see, and like you're like, this hand seems close, but then if you're like, I would be happy to see this hand on 6 cards, then like you should probably keep it. Or you're like, I would be unhappy to see this hand on 6 cards. Because the problem with mulliganing is like, people usually, what gets tricky is people are like, oh, the problem with mulliganing is like, what if my 6 is also bad and then I go to 5, you know what I mean? So they like overcorrect for like, what if the 6 is bad? But if you just ask the question objectively, what would I think if I saw this hand on 6? I think that helps a lot. Like that's literally what I ask myself all the time when I have a close hand. But I would say that it comes down a lot to like, you know, just using your mana, like mana efficiency. Like, for example, yeah, if you have a double white rare, but you have 2 islands, then you're not getting the max value out of it. So it's like, then I'd be like, oh, I value, like, Suki's kind of good in a late game too, but, you know, like, I would be like, I'm just thinking, like, how can I use my mana throughout the game? And I'm trying to maximize using my mana more. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, what's my draw gonna do? You know, can I cast mana to keep developing myself? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, like, yeah.
How willing are you to keep a hand that's completely missing a color? And the hand will just lose the game if it doesn't draw that color. But if you draw the color on turn 2 or 3, your hand looks great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep monocolor hands if they have enough blues. Like, if it's all, like, if it's 3 islands, but I have, like, 2 or 3 blue cards, I might keep that. If I have cantrips, I might keep that. Yeah, I mean, I keep hands that'll have only islands. You know, you just need to ask yourself, like, can I see, how, like, am I going to play the game for a while? Because, like, how many draw steps do I have to hit my planes, right? Because if you have, like, 3 blue spells to cast, you have, like, 5 draw steps to hit the planes, and you might even draw more blue spells, right? So I guess I'm totally fine keeping monocolor hands. The question is just, like, how much stuff do I have to do with my one color? You know what I mean?
Well, let's just say you actually don't have much to do at all, then you ship those.
Yeah, like, and it, you know, it'll depend. Like, Fortune Teller gives you cantrips and stuff, but, like, yeah, like, I would say I definitely keep hands missing stuff.
Like, let's say your hand is just, like, 2 planes and a Fortune Teller, a Battle Fan, an Abandoned Attachment, your Legend of Kurik, like, all your good cards, but you can't actually cast anything but maybe a Battle Fan.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty aggressive at mulliganing. Like, it's almost like the better your deck is, like, if you have a good deck, then you have a lot of good uncommons and rares and synergies to mulligan towards. And it's like, it sucks if you can't, you know, use those things. I would say, like, a subtle thing is, like, sometimes, like, something weird that comes up. Like, the question is, like, so, you know, when some people say, like, oh, like, normally I wouldn't, like, the quality of your deck impacts your mulligans. Like, people might be like, if you have, you know, like, if your deck is medium, then you're more likely to keep a mediocre hand. But, like, if you have a lot of really good uncommons or rares, then you might be, like, slightly less likely to keep a mediocre hand because you could just have uncommon or rare in your opening hand. And, like, sometimes people get carried away with that, where, like, they have a good rare, so then they just mulligan way too much. But that's what I would be, like, yeah, that's something...
You're
like, I guess...
more willing to mulligan a mediocre hand if your average 6 is going to be much stronger. Like, it's just, you know, it pushes you in that direction.
Yeah.
It doesn't say always mulligan towards your busted rares, but
but if you have busted rares, it makes it a little more palatable.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that like if you draft like good decks and like synergistic decks, and all your playable hands are so good, because like basically like if you're a good drafter and you draft good decks, like most like your functional hands, you should have an advantage over most other people, because most other people's decks are not going to be as cohesive, whatever. You know what I mean? So I guess like I do value like just casting my spells and having a cohesive hand. You know what I mean? Because like if you have good decks, like any cohesive hand's gonna feel so good. Because like when all your cards work, like when you have a good curve and all your cards work together and you have synergy and you have good uncommons, like you're gonna be excited to just be able to cast your spells, I guess is what I'm saying. So like I don't want to like keep a hand that I can cast no spells if my deck is, you know, like
Right.
functional.
If your average power level is really high, it's really important to have your colors set up.
Yeah, like
The cards are...
yeah, your cards work together and there's so many. Yeah, so I guess I would say I mulligan kind of aggressively a little bit, but I will keep hands that are all islands if I can cast spells. It kind of boils down to like how much of my mana can I use, and I'm trying to maximize mana usage throughout the game. Like if you think of it that, and also just like if the hand's close, be like, would I be happy on 6? If you see the hand, like if you see that hand of plains whatever, and you say, oh, I would love to see this on 6, then yeah, maybe keep it. But if you think, man, I would not be happy to see this on 6, then maybe mulligan. Like I don't know if you see how that applies to that kind of a hand. If you see what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Alrighty, before we break,
Yeah.
one last question, and it's a quick one.
Yeah.
On a scale of F to A+, what do you give this deck?
Honestly, I don't. I lean to like the deer range on the deck because I feel like, yeah, maybe that's too harsh, but I just feel like you have so many slots dedicated. Like the abandoned attachments just feel like not really that great. Like the thing is, the accumulate wisdom feels so hard to turn on, and you're playing these abandoned attachments that are like not that good, but are there to turn on a card that's hard to turn on, and like you don't have that many good like top end and like I don't know, like playing the cat owl kind of sucks. That's why I might give it like a D or a C. Like I don't know. I feel like if I drafted this at the PT, I would be unhappy. I don't know if that's too harsh. Maybe some people would like it, but that's kind of my reasoning. It's like, and like you have like the platypus bears. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The platypus bears are like just low impact. Like I would like if the platypus bears were just good 4 or 5. Like if you replace cat owl with a good 4-drop and you cut the platypus bears and with like other good cards, it would be so much better. But like, yeah, it's the mix of the abandoned attachments are like weird in the deck, and like the platypus bears I feel are like so low impact. Like it's almost like, think about like the problem with low impact is like, you know when there's a card that's like 1 mana, make a 1/1 token, and you're like, this is half a card. Like I feel like platypus bear is half a card, and every time I cast it, I'm gonna get half a card, and it feels horrible, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think the deck's maybe a little too schizophrenic. It's got, you know, the lesson stuff and the go wide stuff that don't really work that well together. But I had to like spend a lot of deck space supporting both.
Yeah. Like, it could definitely get wins, but I feel like if my opponent has a good curve and a good draw, it's going to be hard to keep up. Like, I feel like it'll be hard to keep up with my opponent if they have a good deck, because they have so much all over the place, and, like, yeah. But, yeah,
Okay.
that's